Welcome back, everyone, to the night shift. It is shift 47, and now we move on to NA. And Jake, I gotta tell you, it has been a week of roster moves. It has been a week of name changes. It has been a week of people on vacation, and a lot of things have changed. But you know what? In the end, we still get a BO3 finals here on the night shift, and it's gonna be between Melee Creeps and Popper's Pupils.
Yeah, and you know, given the rosters in play here, which we'll take a look at in a bit, I mean, these are the two teams where, let's be honest, even if we did have a challenger match, I mean, these are like the head and shoulders above the rest favorites in North America. If you haven't been keeping up with the NA scene, these two teams are the top dogs. They kind of go back and forth here from week to week. It really seems too close to call, although I've heard, I don't know what you were telling me, ZP, some of the scrim rumor mill is that Popper's Pupils could actually be looking really strong this week and maybe set to take home that prize.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, thinking about some of the changes from Melee Creeps, which we'll get into, I think from the Scrimbucks Express, maybe a bit more towards Popper's Pupils, but look, it's NA and anything can happen. But for those just tuning in, we'll give you an idea of how it works on the night shift, at least how it works this week, where it looks a little bit lopsided, but here's how we got here. We just finished up an EU where we had a proper qualifier. Leviathan got through, but they end up losing to Abrahams, and once more, it goes the distance in EU. Buff and Joris take it after losing map 1. And into NA, again, it was the week of teams being on vacation, teams being unable to play, all sorts of wild things. It leads us just Melee Creeps versus Popper's Pupils. But you know, Jake, I went on a decent authority that Bird with Clock will be back next week at a minimum. So, you know, nature will heal over the next
week. That's the thing, right? I mean, we've also seen this before, you know, like that teams break up, reform, make roster changes, don't necessarily want to play in the night shift right off the rip. That we've also seen teams that have died because they got obliterated so badly, like in the challenger match, that like their team just died. So I honestly am like, if you guys need the mental health break to like not play that challenger match, I respect that. I'm not even gonna criticize. And in the end, we're still gonna get a great BO3 between these top two NA squads.
Yeah, I mean, to that last note, I don't actually know the exact reason. I just know, again, that they are no longer a team like they officially disbanded. Is that Get Candy had their first weekly night shift appearance, and it was their last weekly night shift appearance. So all the good things we were saying about the logo, I hope you enjoyed it. It is unfortunately gone. But Jake, we got to talk about the rosters here today, and we're going to kick things off talking about the champion and Melee Creeps, where one of the big changes here, they were playing with Lord NM the last few weeks. They also had League in for a sub when Dew broke his keyboard and couldn't get a new keyboard in the span of 6 hours. But they got Boostio coming into play, and this is a very hot topic because on the upside, you have Boostio, a player that had very high competitive credentials in Overwatch, in Valorant, but effectively hasn't done a lot competitively in Deadlock. And Melee Creeps is saying, you know what, we're going to run the experiment. We're going to see how we work with Boostio, but it's a lot of pressure to be under here from my point of view.
It's true. I do tend to think, though, that players who've played professionally in other titles, especially like similar genre titles, you know, other shooters like Overwatch in particular, I tend to think that does give you a little bit of a leg up in the sense of, you know, the fact of being in a team where everyone's communicating and you're fully coordinating your strategy is not going to be new to Boostio. However, Deadlock is this game with, I mean, everyone who plays and watches, it's a silly thing to say because it's so obvious, but the skill ceiling on this game is absurd. I think even compared to games like Valorant or Counter-Strike, like, you know, there's so many levels to the game. And I as a team as good as Melee Creeps, they pull up the clutch in so many of these late game team fights where, I mean, we can hardly follow the action. So you're right to say this is certainly going to be a trial by fire for Boostio.
Yeah, and I'm super interested because I think there's so many ways to break down, but also in terms of changes, let's look over the Popper's Pupils, where overall, officially on this, it's Low Main and Leffa that are officially substitutions for this new Popper's Pupils team. But on top of it here, Jake, it's also DMB is gone and League is now in. So League, of course, is playing a lot with Melee Creeps. And now for Popper's Pupils, it's going to be League in, DMB out. But I think about when this team started doing really well, they started doing well when the core picked up DMB to begin with. Like DMB had a lot of competitive bona fides going back to older games like Smite. And from what I understand, was a pretty good team presence behind the scenes in terms of shot calling and everything else. So, you know, even if on mechanics, this is somewhat of a lateral, I'm curious to see how Popper's Pupils is going to perform minus DMB.
Yeah, I do, think this is a tough spot to be for a lot of teams right now. I mean, this is the reality, I think, in a lot of like early stage esports is there's just a ton of roster shuffles. I'd be shocked if this is the last we see of DMB. I'm sort of just like waiting for the next team for him to show up and have some great results on. But League has also been a player who has just I mean, been incredibly impressive. I feel like every time I've seen him play in the night shift, he has put up strong performances. I feel like he was one of the first players to really pioneer the Dash Infernus build. That was like pretty top meta a few months ago. It was like his, not buying a single gun item on Infernus. Like, oh, that looks pretty sweet. And I think a lot of people followed in that direction. So I'd love to see a player who can have huge individual performances, can kind of lead the way strategically, and trust their gut on some of their confident picks.
Also, what I'm curious on here, we're about to get into the draft where the one downside about the format this week, unfortunately, no NA Mo 1v1. All the fisticuffs had to be contained to EU because when you're the challenger, you get the right of your choice of side, just how it goes. I guess maybe we could have broken the rules, but, enough got broken this week anyways. At least we could have some consistency in who gets their side pick. But I'm curious how NA is going to treat the meta because, for those just joining now and didn't see EU, Shiv died. Shiv was not played in EU post nerfs, but a lot of the things that were good previously before this last patch were still very much good in things like Mirage and Doorman. And I wonder if NA is going to have the same takeaway here, Jake.
Yeah, one thing I've been noticing about the meta as of late, especially with Drifter kind of rising to the top, which in fairness, yes, it got some big buffs. I think there's some, that the silence on Max Rend is a really big deal for changing your sort of scaling, your potential to make those kills in the late game. But I feel like the meta right now, not only is it very healthy with like, it's not really fixed picks and bans, even for a lot of these top teams. Like we'll see different heroes get banned in the first phase. But the Vision heroes, which I was just talking in YouTube chat, shout out to YouTube chatters, about this very concept, like the Haze getting played, Drifter, Calico, these heroes who a lot of what they provide to their team, especially in competitive play, is the vision. It's the awareness, knowing where the enemy team is, and maybe they don't realize that you've seen them, right? That kind of information asymmetry is so valuable. It's worth its weight in gold in competitive play because these teams are making use of that information. They see, somebody's on a certain spot in the map and they can get away with something somewhere else. Melee Creeps, though, old reliable Mirage has kind of risen to the top of one of the premier picks in this meta. It feels like the lane dominator once again that he was when he initially released, and also scales well to late game. But Pupils Peoples grab a pocket, which say that 3 times fast, CP.
I refuse. Instead, I'm going to talk about them isolating the new player. So, Jake, this Paradox ban makes perfect sense. Some people may be going, it's like, why in the world are you banning Paradox? Boostio doesn't have the biggest hero pool. You're new to Deadlock, especially
welcome to comp,
Deadlock.
Baby.
Yeah,
he's getting the Ido treatment. Back in the day when everyone was like banning Ido's pocket. But, I will say there's 2 ways it can go, right? You can... this is a little bit of a risk for Pupils Peoples. They're hoping that, okay, you punish the Paradox and Boostio doesn't have anything else on a similar level. However, if he can show up in game 2, it basically means you or rather in this game with a strong performance on something else, maybe the Holiday, maybe something, of that nature, then it does kind of call this ban into question. So you're gambling, Pupils Peoples. It is kind of a call out ban here. It's kind of like it is a very personal attack. If you thought everyone on the team was flexible and could play lots of heroes, you wouldn't be doing this ban. So this is for sure them forcing Boostio to show some depth here. And in his very first match here with the Melee Crepes, they're not pulling any punches.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really funny because that's just how NA used to be even more target ban heavy. But looking at Melee Creeps and how they're picking things up here, I'm looking at it and thinking it's probably going to be a John Geist and a Do Silver. So Melee Creeps also saying, hey, it doesn't matter that we don't have Lord NM on the team anymore. We still have a great Silver player in Do. That's where we're going to go. And I mean, honestly, some tankiness here backed up by the Mirage and Pupils Pupils in response. They're going to go for the mid-stage ban on the Holiday, which I think also was Boostio's hero pool. Like, I actually think this is the full-on, like, okay, you guys can pick whatever you want, but we're going to laugh as, like, Boostio is just like, they banned all my heroes, man. What's going on?
I mean, this is competitive Deadlock, right? Like, the nature of the draft is like, it's going to force you to show some more depth. It does mean, though, Melee Creeps have gotten very top quality heroes in general, right? I think getting Mirage and Geist, I'd call these the top 2 carries right now. I mean, Cosmetical's performance in that EU final certainly made a statement about the impact Geist can have on the late game. And we know Mirage with these multi-tornado builds is just a menace. Great carry, great laner, and also pretty sick in the enclosed team fights, which there's not many of the carries who can really kind of bring that AoE presence, the disable that Tornado offers. So Pupils Peoples are going to pick up Infernus now because if you don't grab this here, you're going to wind up really without an M1 carry, and it's also an extremely comfortable pick for League.
Honestly, in terms of value, I think in getting Infernus this late in the draft is unbelievable. This would not happen in EU. And I mean, you look at the Infernus win rate recently and how it's been going, like, I think that is a massive get for Popper's Pupils. The GT is kind of interesting, where it wasn't a very GT favored day today in EU, and definitely not a Shiv favored day. So for melee creeps, we've gone a little bit deeper into the past. We'll see if it pans out. Or, by the way, I'm not even saying NA is wrong to be grabbing Shiv here. There's been so many times where people are just like, oh, Shiv got nerfed, it's over. And then Shiv gets picked again, and people are like, nah, this hero's actually still good. Like, we're still going to go with the Shiv, but they also go the Bebop at the very end.
I like this, though, because you need it. You know that this is the last pick hero available, right? And certainly one that would, I think, be really good for melee creeps. Like a Bebop hero, they have so much damage, they have so much kill threat, but they kind of are lacking a bit of catch here, and I think the Bebop would have been snapped up. Apollo surprises me a little bit, but also maybe not so much. Being able to gap close and get on top of some of these backliners, being pretty annoying to challenge, especially for GT. I think this is a pretty tough matchup, with Apollo being one of the better heroes at like staying on top of you as you try to kite back in the air.
Ready to do some field testing.
Okay, that is a wild McWinnis at the very end. By the way, we have now hit an NA meta, Jake, where Venator is back in the church, not picked nor banned, but instead melee creeps say, nah, actually, we're gonna go with the McGinnis. Also, we got some extra intel here on the limits of the Boostio hero pool. Apparently, Boostio is also a silver player, where man, oh man, if you're like a little bit newer to Deadlock, making silver work, that is hard in a comp environment because the reward is like really high, but we've also seen some of the best silvers around also get punished, where you just have to have an excellent read. So, you know, for Popper's Pupils, they're like, you know what, we're fine dealing with that, but I wonder if they saw this McGinnis coming, because Jake, I certainly did not.
Yeah, they might be lacking a little bit of wave clear on Popper's Pupils. I actually think this is a bit of a heads up McGinnis pick, likely for Saya here. Although I guess you could kind of flex it into a little bit more of a farmed role, but we've seen Saya, I think, be one of the most frequent McGinnis players. And I think he does tend to get a lot of value out of it. We generally see him dominate the lane, take the T1. Although on McGinnis, it feels like that's almost the minimum. It's like if you don't take tier 1s, you've like almost already lost on McGinnis. Like so it's a very risky pick in that sense, where maybe more than just about any other hero in the game, you need to clear that tower pretty quick, and ideally move around the map and clear all the tier 1s pretty quick, and kind of set your team up for success in that way. I do think the Popper's Pupils, man, so much early tempo in this lineup. It'll be up to maybe like Pocket to kind of carry them home with like the late game team fighting, but I think Viscous is very strong right now. I mean, he has been nerfed with the spirit scaling on Splatter, but it still procs Spirit Burn in the late game, which is still very, very threatening.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. If I go off the eye test here, obviously, like, you have a big wild card in melee creeps of, how is the Boostio angle going to go? But if you were to just, throw all aside and look comp versus comp, overall, I think I like the melee creeps comp a little bit more. It's hard to say. It's, again, it depends on, like, what Shiv are you going to get. Historically, the melee creeps comp feels more solid to me. Popper's Pupils is a lot more like, okay, we have to get like a pretty good early mid game, and we need our Pocket to have like a really good performance on top of the Bebop landing hooks, because as soon as you grab both like Bebop and Calico together on the same team, you've kind of, to me, you've put your team a little bit more in the early mid game. Even the Apollo, right? Like Apollo, obviously his tuning has been like shifted up a little bit, but I still think if you were to like gauge where Apollo's power is, it's still more in the early mid game. So, for Popper's Pupils, I think they have like way more of a pressure on them to have like good tempo. But if they get that, I mean, there's also worlds where like melee creeps is just struggling. The McGinnis needs to prove itself, and then also GT has been the ultimate feast or famine hero in recent times, where if GT has a bad start, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of a free game for Bebop too. I mean, it's really just, I guess Silver and Shiv can punish you pretty decently in terms of like overwhelming you if you look for a hook and maybe it doesn't kind of pan out so well. Popper's Pupils, they're also, I mean, I guess Pocket's always going to, is a pretty sick side laner. I think he's kind of like one of the few of the non-gun focused characters who is like a pretty nasty side laner to like keep the wave pushed in and very, very hard to 1v1 against. But I guess they're kind of lacking a second side laner. It's Infernus here, right, for Popper's Pupils, which isn't terrible, but I could see Infernus having some trouble with like the Mirage or the Geist, 1v1 in the side lane. Those matchups could sometimes be a little tough. So I think Popper's Pupils very, very strong around the middle of the map, especially in the mid game, and that's where they need to kind of blow this one open, right? Get Calico, Viscous, Bebop, get them like into the mix and like taking some big fights, so that you don't have to really rely on dominant 1v1s in the side lanes, unless maybe Pocket can provide that.
So Jake, we got a new feature here. I don't know if you've noticed, but take a look at your screen. As the players get in the lobby, where it's auto-updating with who is on what hero. It also acts as a way of shaming some of our NA players that take forever to get in the lobby. I'm looking at you, Boostio. I don't see you on Melee Creeps right now. And also for Popper's Pupils, I mean, we're missing some players too. So this is accountability, Jake, where not only do we get updated info in case there's any surprises from our analysis, we also let people know at home who is making this take longer, who hasn't gotten to lobby yet.
No, this is important technology. I thank God we've discovered this. It's to save the world, man. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see, who ends up holding up the match. The pressure will get intense when it's just one player, but I'm a little worried for Melee Creeps. That mid game, it's going to be scary. I do think, though, historically, I feel like this has been the way that Melee Creeps likes to play Deadlock. I don't think generally they like a super aggressive early tempo draft. I typically see them drafting to be better in the late game, confident that even if maybe early game's not amazing, they can just do well enough where it kind of comes down to a team fight with some close soul net worth. And they are historically very, very strong at like holding in those defensive positions, getting those turnaround fights and bringing the game back. Where for a lot of these players on Popper's Pupils, where we've seen them competing before, it's been a lot of like snowball the game, crushing victory when it goes well. But you kind of throw like one big team fight around the mid game, you lose a big objective like a mid boss, and these strategies, they do fall apart. So I actually think Popper's Pupils, I think the way that they play is the best way to play Deadlock. That's my view, is like they're correct that playing the game to dominate early and never lose your lead is like the will eventually be the metagame, but any imperfections in your execution, you slip up and get picked at the wrong moment, and it comes down like a house of cards. So it's certainly going to be a stressful one for Popper's Pupils.
Also, in terms of where the chat is holding out here, looking at the channel points, let me tell you, normally there's a pretty big Melee Creeps bias. It's not happening here. I don't know if it's Boostio doubters. I don't know if it's McGinnis doubters. But Jake, we got doubters here. The people so far throwing more of their channel points behind Popper's Pupils here. And okay, we do get confirmation. Boostio's in the lobby. It will be the Boostio Silver. And, it's one of those things where it's high risk, high reward. I think playing a silver at the comp level is one of the hardest things in the game because of what it demands on movement, how teams have gotten so much better of focus firing on you. But also, we're getting down to the wire here, Jake, where both teams are missing one player each. I want to just, throw shade at one of the two teams here, and yet they've just equally been slow at getting into this lobby.
It's vexing. We want to start a witch hunt against one player, and it's just not quite that easy right now. So we'll have to live with it. Hopefully we get those players in soon. But I do think for Boostio, it's going to be potentially a tough game. I think when you are up against a draft like this that's very tempo-centric, very like aggressive in the mid game, I think it's your frontliners who have the hardest job of all, because, and maybe I'd even put Saya on McGinnis in the same boat, because like Ido, he's gonna be able to dash away on GT and kind of get out of some sketchy situations. Geist and Mirage are notoriously super hard to bring down and are probably gonna play pretty conservatively naturally. But as Shiv and Silver, you kind of need to get into the mix, and you kind of need to like take some risks. Those gankers are gonna find the opportunity to go on you, and to make the difference, sometimes just living, just getting out of that kind of moment without feeding a kill away. You've done your job. But by the same token, you can also kind of fall behind the game, kind of not be able to keep up on the defensive investments, and then we've seen that go from bad to worse, right, for frontliners, especially with Infernus on the other team, where for me, I think Infernus is the best carry in the game right now at expressly burning down frontliners and just annihilating them early, right? Shiv, it's like historically has always been kind of the counter with that damage over time. And it's just the nature of Infernus. If you get max napalmed, you do not want to be trying to tank through that. You need to be like getting away and resetting, but the frontliners, not so easy.
Also, we did get the final update. Do is in the lobby, but just hasn't chosen Shiv, and we are waiting on Low Main. So Low Main, last one to get into lobby. Fashionably
I'd hope
late.
for better from you, Low Main. I'm you know what? I'm a fan of the gameplay, but I'm not a fan of you being last in the lobby.
Also,
chat, everybody shake your head, chat. Everybody, I need to just give me a little, come on now. Okay, he's in.
Finally. Yeah, I was going to say, even with a different name,
social pressure works.
Jake, we do need to figure out the proper incentive system for this team, because whatever name this team is on, going all the way back to some of the Hydra Nation roots, by far the most delayed team in all of competitive Deadlock history on actually getting into lobby. I don't know if it's small bladders. I don't know like what is going on behind the scenes, but there is a lethargy to this team on actually getting in to start the game. But given the fact that we see all the names now, Jake, we're about to get in. Like the wait is about to be over, and we're going to answer some of the very pertinent questions about both of these teams. And as I say that, thank God, Jake, it's about to begin.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Slow but steady. Deadlock, Night Shift, baby. We're here every single Wednesday. If you're enjoying the show, make sure to follow, subscribe, throw a comment on the YouTube channel. I mean, you're already here. Come on now. Show us some love, guys. Get the message spread about this wonderful game in the esport that it has begun to nurture. Speaking of nurturing, I'd love to be inside the cube right now. What do you think about that, ZP?
I mean, the cube is a safe spot. It's a part where you can just sit back, relax, let all your worries go away. And granted, it may be short-lived if there's 4 heroes waiting outside the jump you, but the period in the cube, it's fantastic. Also, as far as it goes here, also check out our Discord. We got Discord you can hang out in too while we're doing all the social plugs. But here we go, Jake. We're going to talk about the actual game. The lanes are underway, and it's a McGinnis middle with Geist.
Okay, maybe expect to see some tower pressure there. That's going to be tough, though, because I love that Lomain is laning mid. I think Bebop is actually one of the really more annoying heroes. Just anytime you try to ever push a T1, you risk just getting hooked insanely deep.
Swaps.
And you're just dead to that. Yeah, so they're going to think about, okay, they just a double side lane swap. What's the matchup they're trying to get here? I guess they just don't want to lane the Shiv into Infernus Calico. That's like too threatening. I don't know. I love the Infernus Calico lane. And when I say love it, I mean, I hope I'm not playing against it. It is a very, very scary lane. And I will say the price of the swap is a lot of tempo lost on the lanes. Like, you getting waves crashed. It's not a free thing to, like, swap your heroes. And it's going to mean, like, a couple 100 points of damage around the board. Fishcake definitely taking some serious harass.
Yeah, and I think in here, too, is that, for melee creeps, clearly they also think that this is maybe going to be a better lane for Bustio. I would have to imagine, in going about this, where you have a new player that you're acclimating to the game and the team at the same time, realistically, you'd probably want to make things as easy as possible. But, we're talking about the side lanes. Look at what's going on in middle right now. The chase down on the Saya. Lomain, no hook available, and as a result, Saya may get away, but the pressure in mid lane already looking pretty intense with this Bebop Apollo.
Oh, Saya's taking a lot of risks staying in here. Apollo would love to be able to come down and get that kill, and Average does pick it up. Saya, I mean, I understand it. I think going back to base hurts so badly there on McGinnis, but he's going to be able to at least get the reset. I don't think it's like the worst death of all time, because John is still pretty healthy on the Geist, and in the end, he's going to get some of the solo farm here, so not exactly a nightmare scenario, but certainly a tough one. I will say for Bustio, man, maybe the lane swap, but he swaps into the Infernus Calico lane, which, I mean, this is why the draft looks so sick for Pupils, because the laning is really terrifying. Like, there are no weak lanes in this draft. And we're seeing that in the pressure that's being kind of exerted across the board. But we've seen it before where, you can overstep that mark, and FPS Launch can absolutely make the comeback fights happen, regardless of how some of these early waves go.
Yeah, I mean, I think storylines to look at here in the beginning is that can Silver get out of the early mid game in a decent spot, but also the GT. I mean, I think part of the danger here of being up against such a strong laning team in Pauper's Pupils is that this game can get away from you to the point that even when you stabilize melee creeps, Ido may be sitting there being like, but yeah, I'm only at plus 16, 20 minutes into the game. You kind of need a little bit more momentum to create some of those opportunities in most situations. Otherwise, again, as GT, it can feel a little bit tough into the late game. So, to me, I have very strong eyes on both Ido and Bustio here to see how this early to mid game goes. And, for Pauper's Pupils, meanwhile, we talked about it at the beginning, Jake. This isn't a comp that really loves going into late game with it being even, especially we're going to run things like, the Bebop, the Calico, things that and the Apollo that do better in the early to mid.
Oh, a little bit off sync, the hook, just as the disengaging sigil came out from Average, but in the end, it's just some nice harass, Saya getting lower, and goes for intensifying magazine, so he's still going to try to play to win this lane, put some pressure down on Guardians, but I don't can't lie, ZB. I'm skeptical of that game plan. Like, pushing into Bebop in a way you're you're giving him exactly what he wants. That being said, this Geist is going to be just impossible to remove from the lane. And yeah, you can't even really take this challenge. I mean, look at the restoration, the heal on Geist. She is impossible to fight right now. Bebop really has no threat to send back the other way. And Saya even finds the last bullet. Turn that into a kill. Oh man, I mean, he was full HP pressing that tower and got completely crushed by that Geist punish.
Yeah, I mean, that was absolutely absurd on the chase down. It was just even a little bit less, Eddie gets away there, but that last bomb crucial, as well as the bullet from Saya. But looking back here into the laning situation, things feeling a little bit quiet here. A lot of the action we've seen so far has gone down in middle. Buffs, though, about to come up here and take a look. Melee creeps camping out on both left and right buffs. They get both of them. That's a nice survival for John.
Looks like a fight breaking out on the other buff, though. Maybe a little bit of one of those early game skirmishes. A lot of pressure being put down by Ido here, though. Viscous and Pocket forced to respond to that. In the end, everybody's able to slip away from the fights in mid. The low main looks to be in some trouble.
You have the shift from Boostio in the mid right now, too, so a bit of a commit from melee creeps into the mid lane.
Man, this tower
It's average all sorts of low, and yeah, I mean, anytime McGinnis has a moment of free fire.
Crazy on McGinnis.
Yeah.
Like, actually, this may be one of the best heroes to catch the 5-minute gun buff. It just you get the mag size as a percent, rate of fire. It's the two dream stats for specifically McGinnis. So, great find for melee creeps grabbing those buffs. It does a lot to kind of equalize this game after some tough early lanes.
All right, so Guardian goes down. Melee creeps able to get a little bit of a reprieve in middle, where, again, the game plan here is as soon as they got the mid Guardian, Saya is off to work on the left, and it's just free farm for John in middle. We'll see if this McGinnis rotate pays off here on the left, as already under a little bit of pressure is Fishcake. Dust Devils round. Flame Dash comes in, but League bites off more than he can chew.
Really nice bait by Sai there. He's like hiding in the corner, waits for Infernus to come in for a trade, which looks good for Infernus, and then Saya comes out of nowhere, drops the wall, but speaking of coming out of nowhere, Xeno and Poppers drop in, completely annihilate Saya, so getting rid of the gun buff as well as defending this side tower. That's going to slow Saya's roll quite a bit here.
Lane's being stabilized here by Popper's Pupils, and the overall game state relatively even, 24k to 25k. Yeah, down one Guardian, or Popper's Pupils, but overall, 7 minutes, that can change relatively quickly. And in fact, even on the pushing here, Jake, Saya went back to middle. We got a replay, though. We see some of the shenanigans Low Main was up to on this hook.
So clean. Like, that kind of hug just breaks the back of Shiv. And that's a kill on the Do, who is another one of these players you really are looking to on melee creeps to have a very big game. Can't follow up with the second hook. It's going to take a bit of harass in response. Saya, again, fearless McGinnis, just clearing the map. Flowchart deadlock here, tower to tower.
Somewhere out there.
Again, this is what you expect from McGinnis. Like, I don't think this is a shock by any stretch of the imagination.
No, somewhere out there, Naked is happy, and okay, a tiny low shot. Is that enough? It is. John taken on down. No swap opportunity when you're that low. Get hit by the Apollo ult, but Ido lets loose the bird. Doesn't quite hit the terrain, and instead gets League. So that's a quick +8 for Ido on the first bird of the game.
Yeah, he's going to be happy to pick up a kill there. I like that League was able to get a little bit of counter damage down, maybe mitigate some of the chase. Do should be able to find this kill. Has a bunch of knives there in Poppers, who is just bleeding out. Does as much damage as he can before falling. And okay, hold on. Maybe that actually set up for the counter kill. Nice response from Low Main. Stam a little bit low on Shiv, but slipping into the room. Bebop just knows it doesn't quite have the chase with potential support coming in. Well played by Do. Finds one and gets out for free. Even pulls a rotate.
Early heal bang going to be bought by Boostio, who so far I feel like it's been a little bit more of a conservative play here, but that's completely fine. I think especially when you're finding your footing, first competitive game, you know, maybe you look back and be like, oh, maybe it could have been a little bit more aggressive. No. You want to be the guy who's like, ah, damn, you're feeding. Boostio playing conservatively, and so far it's worked out, although the fight may be brought to him. You look at Poppers right now testing some limits.
Yeah, you can feel Popper's Pupils. They want to get aggressive. They want to contest some of these jungle camps, but the punishes, they keep coming in. That's another find for Do. And that's going to be the Radiant Regen up for Shiv. I mean, he's off to quite the start, especially because he hasn't invested at all in Vitality. So you get away with this kind of a build from the laning phase, it's going to really amp up your farm rate throughout the game. Ooh, some big stacks if Leffa does want to commit with an Affliction here. He might. I mean, Shiv, honestly, I think if he managed to Afflict there, that would have been a kill on Shiv.
In this case, I think it's just simple pressure onto Sinners, and maybe it's saving the Affliction for buff contest or Rift contest. Although we're so far out from Rift that, I mean, you could drop an Affliction there and you would have had it back up for Rift, but...
Scary moment for Boostio. He needs to get this Lycan Curse proc, but he's already half HP. Cube and a pullback here. Should get Xeno in trouble, but the bird is scary. It's hard to fight into this, and okay, Gooball tanks it. He's pretty mobile, but down here in the Catacombs, it's a little bit hard to slip away with the Gooball. Meanwhile, upstairs, Popper picks off one from the outside, and Xeno, if he could just get away from this, he'd feel fantastic. Bird was committed and just sends him back to the base.
Yeah, and I mean, not only that, deprives Ido of another stack, and Jake, one thing I didn't really realize going into this is, well, hold the phone. We got the chase down here, once more in the John. Tylo-san is ready, but the guy's not brought down quite low enough for that to be a kill this time. But Jake, we're gonna have to say Popper's Pupils with Poppers being on the team, and it's just gonna get messy for us at points. That's all I know.
We love an alliteration team name. I like a challenge, and this, I mean, Ido looks real trouble. Oh, wait, hold on. Dodges the first flawless advance, actually. I thought he would maybe go down there. Repulse, though, straight into the Spirit Snare, and things are looking pretty tough for ABG. He's putting a lot of damage down. Nice little wall bounce off the disengaging Sigil, but he is just going to get run down. Boostio picks up the finish, and it will proc Lycan Curse. I don't know that there's more to be found in the fight, but good find for melee creeps.
Perfectly content.
Things back and forth, and in the end, neither team with a massive advantage here so far. Ido, though, chosen to be the Urn Runner. GT as Urn Runner is a little bit interesting, where a little bit fragile, but, ideally, extra front on GT, not a bad thing at all. But the face-off here, a little bit of pocket versus Saya, drops the frogs, one-man Affliction. We'll see if there's extra follow-through here. It certainly is going to force Saya to back up a little bit and not camp in the healing field, but guess what? Backup is here, join the fight, and just left looking for the exit.
Little trades here. I don't mind the harassment Affliction, honestly. At this phase of the game, like sending somebody back to base, yeah, ideally you'd be able to clean up that kill, but as long as you connect the scale and slow things down, there's going to be a pretty neutral ground here. Urn being held, Ido is going to get the dunk, and probably just about all the last hits here. Yeah, Viscous not able to grab many of those. Little economy win here for melee creeps, and despite, it's interesting, it feels like the last few skirmishes have been feeling good for melee creeps, but Popper's Pupils are getting more out of the map. Maybe that's the Calico effect of her getting a lot of these tunnel breakables. Melee creeps obviously no tunnel heroes for them, but whatever the cause, I mean, the eco is looking good. A trophy collector picked up by Xeno, so he's looking to tempo out of the early game and maybe scale into some scary spirit damage on Viscous.
I think your melee creeps are thrilled about this result. I mean, remember, I think it's more on Popper's Pupils to get ahead at this stage of the game with the comp they ran. Melee creeps, they're less under pressure here so far, but Jake, the Rift is about to spawn. And the one thing that is a little bit of a hit for Letha is that if the Rift spawns on the earlier side, not going to be Affliction up for it, but if it spawns on the later side, it'll be up just in time. So if your Popper's Pupils are saying, Rift, just wait a bit.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about these Rift fights, too, is they go long. So even though somebody, let's say they don't quite have the ult just yet, if it's coming off cooldown reasonably soon, you could easily get caught into a quagmire here of a minute long or more contest here. Poppers, maybe going down early. A lot of pressure here on Calico.
I see the enemy.
Low HP, and all the positioning, though, is here for Popper's Pupils. Melee creeps are split across the map. They're trying to bring 4 players to this fight, but the laser over the top makes a contest pretty scary.
Look at John, he's just sitting behind the box. Geist just sitting there, and if you want to stall on the Rift, there's no better player than Geist. So John does the stall, the laser gone, and okay, the Rift just goes over the melee creeps as Popper's Pupils. They decide to back up.
It's a good call, actually. I think that's a very disciplined call from Popper's Pupils. That fight, although they had position early, it just didn't start well for them. The cube just a fraction of a second too late. But Infernus off the back of the heel may be able to live, and actually he's thinking about doing more here. They have some pressure on a few players, but Wise, I think they're maybe happy to just get out of that without giving a big team fight. Geist is legitimately so scary in those Rift fights, right? When you're kind of limited in some sense in your ability to run away from her, and she can threaten the swap. I mean, that's a big reason why we've seen so much more Geist playtime these days.
Yeah, I mean, both Geist and Infernus, I think, are the 2 heroes that have benefited the most, and that is a big power shot to the back of Average, into the wall by Saya. The catch is unreal, and Average immediately down as a result of the 1-2 combo between Saya and Ido.
Yeah, great find. Boostio also there for the boot kick to lock it in. Curious if he's getting an item check, because we got a Cult Sack on McGinnis, which is pretty interesting buy. I actually kind of like it, though. It's going to mean her tower pressure is even stronger, and her ability to maybe scale a little bit towards the late game with one of those heavy barrage builds could be pretty nice. Shiv, very low vitality investment. He's got a lot of damage, but not a lot of survivability. He needs some very clean movement to get away, but Zeno picking up the flank, it's just not going to happen. Tornado is out. Affliction is good, but ooh, Pocket, I think one more stack might be enough to kill him. But Lefa, he holds his nerve, hasn't popped the satchel just yet. Slips away and actually just sticks around long enough to bait Mirage to stay in for the kill. Boostio, though, does find Lefa after that tape away. Maybe more fight to be had.
Well, the Silver Wolf form is going to get popped, but it's not in position for battle. It's a position for retreat. And the covering fire is there from Ido, so Boostio gets out of the way. Ido provides a bit of covering fire, and that maybe just hit the buffs, though, about to come up. And yeah, not something you want to stay on as Silver, but okay, Boostio hanging up over. Boot kick here on the Viscous, but still low HP. I don't think you want to stick around.
Yeah, more support is coming in. I mean, both teams kind of bringing slowly but surely more numbers in this engagement. There is an urn to be picked up. I'd love to see Average try to grab that. Ido pryos it first. May give up the Guardian for it, but I'd say that's well worth it. Especially if they get a kill here. Like, this feels like a really nice trade for melee creeps. Maybe, though, Lefa coming in, grabs a few stacks. Not going to be able to commit for more, so... Wait, actually, it's Poppers who slips away with the urn, so okay. The fact that the urn is the real prize here. I mean, it's probably more important than either the kill or that tier 1 Guardian.
So fast on the Calico, by the way. That is just crazy speed. On the 0. And Saya not around the denial. Thought, okay, maybe stick around for a few denies, but nope, not going to happen. And, you know, despite the chaos here, Jake, it's 10-8 on the kills, nearly even on the overall soul count. You know, really at this point, I just kind of look a little bit more into the soul economy and the goals of both teams. And I think you favor melee creeps a little bit given their, you know, tendency to the late game. And also in terms of farm, you know, John, not super ahead of the game, but also not behind me. At 14K is still the highest in the game. It's not exceptional. You have a lot of players at 14K currently.
Yeah, 2 trophy collectors picked up for Popper's Pupils, though. That could help a little bit as they look to scale into the late game. And Xeno's on a pretty solid trajectory here on Viscous. 14K souls, just picked up the Tank Buster. This is a pretty strong moment for Viscous. I don't think he maybe quite has the Spirit Spike just yet, but Tank Buster alone is like enough to be a really significant amount of spirit damage. And with Express Shot on the back of it, pretty much everyone on the Popper's Pupils side does a lot of damage when they're engaged in these fights. And still some players on melee creeps that I think are definitely not quite online just yet, especially Geist Mirage would love some more time to farm.
Quick dive on the McGinnis, forces out the healing station, and then a quick retreat where, you know, I think Poppers looked at and was perfectly fine to get the cooldown out, but didn't want to commit beyond that. Essentially about 1 minute away from another rift. Elsewhere on the map, we see the dive now in onto Fishcake, courtesy of Average. Average, though, gonna be defended by Do. Riposte out. And now with Tani Losan over and in, it's not gonna be enough to finish. It is.
Big find, the Healbane pays dividends. Affliction's a 1-man onto Do, but I think that'll be enough. Lefa would love to be able to pick up some more kills. Ido doesn't pay all the hook onto Do. I think he maybe would have been able to escape, but I think with that hook, they'd be able to finish off. And yeah, he is gonna tick out from the bloodletting. Final blow does go to low main, so keep the Bebop, you know, in a competitive spot farm-wise. And ABG wasted no time getting right back into the fight. Finds a little riposte onto Ido and gonna be able to slip away scot-free here. So nice little winning trade, a little walker damage to boot. That's definitely opens things up for a future push for League or Lefa.
I think the only thing for Popper's Pupils that you don't like about this, and I mean, it's still probably worth the trade, is that if the Rift spawns right now, you're actually a little bit drained on ults, and I don't know if you actually want to take the fight for the hook. Welcome to competitive Deadlock, Boostio. You just got hauled in. Is the finish going to be there? Boostio's looking all sorts of low right now. Okay, maybe. Is there a chance for the escape? 20 HP and a dream for Boostio. Down into the underground and hiding.
I mean, it's tough. He has to just run for the hills now. But there's so many players. It's going to turn into a full team fight. But now Ido, there's no one here to help him hold this pressure. Calico still has to dispel magic. He's going to make sure that she doesn't take that proc. Silver has to heal, cannot come into this fight. So one player sent to base, another forced into a respawn is going to be picked off. Hunter's Aura is picked up for Boostio, though, which is going to be a valuable aura to have as this Rift fight looks to be getting underway. Ido still 10 seconds out of the fight, though. I wonder if you end up contesting this. Big question for him as a Shiv on the front line. And Average wastes no time. He's already into the fight. Doesn't care about the Rift. Looking to blow this one out of the open before the fight can even really get going. Lycan Curse is proc, but Average just way too mobile to actually get run down. Connection on the pocket, though, is exactly what the Doctor ordered. A kill on the Leffa would be the dream here for Boostio. Gonna get an affliction instead. Leffa out of the fight, though. Job done, I think, for Silver here.
Yeah, I mean, you've created some space. You get hit with the affliction, but now the Rift still in contest. We'll see how this one pans out. Now, note that in the Rift fight, there's no Geist there, but it may not be required as Melee Creeps is able to finish it off, courtesy of Ido and Fishcake. And now the Men in Black roll on out.
Off these creeps, I mean, there's a bit of a lack of D push here. Lomain's going to come back into this wave. They're going to maybe look for the defense with the hook, but there's no Bebop laser. Wilson.
Oh, on the Boostio. And Boostio, yeah, taken down. The Walker goes down in turn, but Pauper's People's not without a pick-off. Both teams getting a bit of a trade out here. They lose league in the process. Gonna be 5-on-5, Jake, in just a moment. Although Ido picked off towards the end of it, and this is where things start getting a little bit sketchy, where if you're Pauper's Peoples, you wonder, you know, can you go for a mid-boss?
Spear buff for Average is gonna be pretty nice here. That looks like maybe a little bit of a trade breaking out here against Mirage. Does Mirage have double tornado just yet? He could be in trouble. It's a big stun from Riposte. Could be thinking about a dive, but it's so risky. 3 stacks on Average, and I mean, the Jin's mark is just too scary. Even without the skill max, right? You take that full proc, and then, I mean, this is just one of those heroes that you do not want to take those risky dives against.
Not at all. Looking off to the right. It's going to be Melee Creeps in control of the urn. 105k to 105k. John starting to get clearance on the game. Richest at 21k. So I think exactly where you want to be. We'll see how much this urn is contested, if at all. You know, urn contests are a little bit more rare nowadays, where people just kind of accept the dunk, but it does mean you get more opportunities for, you know, moments to surprise the opposition. But Melee Creeps bringing in multiple members in force for this turn-in, and it's an easy dunk for Saya.
Yeah, he's gonna get the lion's share of the souls there too. So another little cash injection for McGinnis. Keep her relevant. Oh, a low HP player on the other side. 10 seconds on the execute. You got to be worried, but Average gonna get a little bit lucky there with the awkward dash from Dew that kind of caught on the wall. The bird needs to connect, but Cube is gonna protect Average from that follow-up. He's gonna be just fine in Affliction. It's gonna pretty much send this Shiv back to base. Maybe it means there's not gonna be players to respond with this Walker push coming in. Oh, Mirage, though, has during the fight, hasn't even used the TP to get to this place. So League, just going to be a death for a Walker for him. Not the worst trade. I mean, one that I think you're generally willing to take. But maybe if mid-boss is forced, you'll live to regret it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good trade so long as mid-boss isn't on the menu. And you got McGinnis, you got gun damage for days. Saya hops into the pit. Melee Creeps looking to turn into a Walker for mid-boss trade. Pauper's Pupils, what do you have here on the contest? Poppers shows on up here on the Calco. The crystal is coming on down. Ido gets picked off from the Calco engage. The beam coming down from below, but who's gonna get the crystal charges? Mirage just in the nick of time comes on in, a bit of disruption, and it's gonna be enough for Melee Creeps. They get all 3 crystals, and a lot of this assault by Pauper's Pupils is gonna go to the wayside.
Big fight for Melee Creeps, and they might even get away with all 3 of the rejuves. Dew's super low, so there's still players for Pauper's Pupils trying to take at least one of these crystals away, but it's not clear that they'll be able to find it. I mean, the Heal Bane just keeps chunking Dew back up, so he stays alive on this Shiv, and we've reached that point in the game now where it feels like Melee Creeps have cleared the hurdles, right? They've still looking for more is a little bit wild, but hey, why not? I mean, I can see why Dew is starting to feel himself on Shiv in this particular match.
So Melee Creeps,
you're definitely getting to late game now for Melee Creeps. Like they're going to be coming online on Mirage and Geist if they aren't already.
Yeah, and again, I think win conditions start narrowing here for Pauper's Pupils on the comp that they're in. I think, you know, only saving grace here really is that I don't think Ido has that many stacks. We can do a stack check in, but I assume, you know, it's no more than like 24, but it may be even as low as 16. So it's not a snowball game of the GT. And the silver is a little bit behind. So the, you know, Boostio is, you know, basically making space, but not just one-man armying it the way that we've seen, you know, players like Dew do at times. But, you know, for Pauper's Pupils, again, as time goes on, the Calco gets a little bit less effective, the Apollo gets less effective, the Bebop gets less effective, and you wonder who's going to carry them through. And in a way, Jake, I feel like you're starting to stare at Leffa and be like, Leffa, do you have the world's biggest afflictions? But even that can be problematic once you start getting Divine Barriers online.
Yeah, definitely. Lots asked of Leffa here to find some big afflictions. Feels like he's going to be one of those key late game heroes. Very deep position here for Ido. Pretty suspicious, and Poppers is going to kind of call him out. Does get him down quite low.
I see
Does
biscuit.
hurt here for Ido. I mean, he'd prefer to be able to stay in the fight. Looks like committing to this Walker defense, though, are Popper's Pupils. McGinnis going to go for the hard siege into it. Really aggressive. I mean, McGinnis going to lose a rejuve almost instantly here. And there's a Flame Dash, kind of making this a very awkward place to fight. Affliction onto 2. Do is also low. Do's hook deep, killed under Walker. This is looking pretty scary now, ZP. Popper's Pupils starting to turn on the heat. Turn on
2 crystals down.
Still 1 rejuve remaining, but a couple players could be vulnerable, and there's still a couple more Flame Dashes available for Infernus. Although, whoa, these Geist shots hurt. John gets activated into the fight and turns that around.
John brought an actual hand cannon to the battle. 2 end up falling. And wait, yeah, that's terrible for average. The hyperline, and yeah, okay, you're going to struggle and try and get away, but almost certainly going to fall off of that. Massive moments here for John, and help solidify what could have been scary for Melee Creeps. I mean, the way that was looking with the entry that League had on the Flame Dash, I mean, Jake, that was very close to being a rejuve just done for Melee Creeps, but they, overall solidified. They still got 1 rejuve left, and they do extend on their lead.
To be honest, I don't feel that bad about Popper's Pupils, that team fight, though. Like, yes, they give up the kills in the end, but they defend the Walker. They kept the wave out, and I would say that's probably still worth it for them. Look at the soul advantage here. It's, a little over 10K, so it's meaningful for Melee Creeps, but definitely not unwinnable. I think that the worry comes in, though, is, are you on a clock the game for the Popper's Pupils draft? I kind of feel like they are, with Geist reaching this point where she is scary with the damage, but I mean, she's not skipped on these tank investments. The Spirit Resilience, it feels like every earn in this game, for the most part, has gone to the Melee Creeps, and yeah, the economy situation going from bad to worse here.
Also, we did get an update on I don't know if he got a stack in that last fight, but he was at plus 16, so it is not a hyper farmed GT game, but the rest of the team being farmed.
There's no way to contest this, right? This is a psycho move to contest it. And whoa, even walking in, I don't know why he did that. He just gets hooked in a really rough spot on Shiv. I mean, maybe there's going to be a Walker take on the other side of the map. I feel like this was going to happen regardless. So Popper's Pupils, they're going to get a Walker trade of their own. They're going to be able to get a kill off the back of that, and maybe another hook onto Saya.
Yeah, Saya got hooked from bad to worse. Yeah, I mean, honestly, bow down the low main. That was absurd. 1 hook after another. And okay, I was about to lose my mind if that was a 3rd hook, but low main's Bebop here at nearly 27 minutes into the game punishes Do, punishes Saya, and honestly, if you're Fishcake, this is a little bit dangerous. Like, okay, you get League,
Fishcake,
but
that's so sick.
Yeah, you got to get out at this point, though. He's low, and if it's your life for Infernus, it's still not good.
And base guard's also taken by John. So I like that Melee Creeps, Boostio, and John doubled down in the lane they're already pushing, recognizing they just can't get back to this fight in time. But somehow Fishcake finds a kill on the League and clears that whole wave. That's going to be a very nice consolation prize for him. Man, he's into the escalating, pretty scary stuff. And we're going to see some of these hooks on the replay. I mean, honestly, do even touching the circle, I don't get why you do. I think there's no chance for you to win that fight. And then he just gets hooked and annihilated. And here we can see the follow-up hook. I mean, McGinnis, kind of a free kill. I mean, Kava the Italian Losan, you're not going to be missing those too often. The Bebop like low main.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, just you need to respect the threat of Bebop, and low main got hit with a little bit of disrespect there and punished it in turn. But going back to the current game state here, I mean, even with Melee Creeps having the great mid boss, Jake, this is still anyone's game right now. Shrine's still up for Popper's Pupils within 6K, and yeah, well, Melee Creeps has a better scaling team. If low main's gonna make plays like this on Bebop, I gotta tell you, anything can happen, because Bebop, as we've seen throughout Deadlock history, is the ultimate just equalizer. All else being had if the Bebop is having a good game.
All right, ZP, it's time. Can we take a look, production, at the viscous items? I want to take you through a little adventure, which I call. I think Viscous is a legitimately very scary scaling hero. I think this hero actually has crazy late game. The Spirit Burn is the power peak for this hero. He's got the maximum Spirit investment. It's like the plus 100. And every splatter, look at that splatter. Look at that HP. That's what I've been playing Viscous for months now. Like, I know, I'm ready for that. Okay, a good fight to start here. Poppers, though, super low HP here on Calico. Affliction out of 2, though, and there could be a look in here into this tiny corridor for Geist. Double Italian Sonic cleans up both of the afflicted players. Poppers died for it, but seems well worth. Maybe the tornadoes from Mirage can bring this fight back, but Xeno still healthy, still able to bring a decent amount of damage to bear. League and Lefa, though, still in the fight, and a huge concussive combustion. Hits on 3 out of nowhere. League, big find for him. Even gets the Ignite on Shiv, who also is starting to get in some real trouble with the Dispel magic out. Shiv could be going down sooner rather than later, and Do feels like he's got to back off the trade.
Do needs to live. If Do goes down, this is going to be mid-boss for Popper's Pupils. They are working with momentum. Ido at death's door has to take the run back to base. Okay, but if you're able to get League here, it would be huge. League at lower HP.
I think they're all
Do,
gonna die
no
to
fear
Viscous
whatsoever,
here,
but I think Do is about to die right now because, yeah, Viscous is locked and loaded. You're in a closet full of goo. And as a result, off these kills, Jake, if you're Popper's Pupils, you have to slam mid-boss with this level of advantage.
You do. It's a little scary with a big wave crashing on your base and Infernus on low HP. They might also be willing to take a kill onto Ido, but Ido recognized that too. He is just using every point of stam to get away. And yeah, I think you do have to just back and clear the base. You may still be able to flip mid though. I mean, I think you cannot let that wave take your base guards. That would be like too risky, but 40 seconds without Do, I think that's enough. And Affliction is coming back off cooldown, so you're not even in a huge rush necessarily to get this fight off. At this point in the game, the damage is so high. Even John spawning in 5, I think that's going to be too late.
Ido maybe able to do a little bit of disruption here at the Owl, but melee creeps. This is a tough contest if they decide to go in. The Rejuvenator coming on down. Is the Owl even gonna be popped? Ido sends the bird on the way. Stun onto the crystal. Fish kick over and in. Double Dust Devil. 2 crystals though over the Popper's Pupils. All three cleaned up. The contest does not work. And what penalty now will melee creeps play as 2 have been hit with Affliction?
Second used, but the Affliction is so big onto Mirage in particular. He's not going to get any of that sustain. John also goes down. Fishkick had to completely evacuate the fight. Looks like he was able to successfully teleport away, and the waves are abysmal for Popper's Pupils, so at least, won't be immediately into a base push. They're looking for more kills, though. Oh, my hook goes just a little bit wide, but Do certainly put on notice there.
One thing about melee creeps, Jake, even though that looked a little bit rough on the contest, they did get 2 crystals down. They paid a pretty severe price for it, and Popper's Pupils are still going to get earned. They're still going to get, potentially a walker off this. But draining the crystals down to 2 does limit some of the effectiveness of the later pushes here. I think the bigger thing that gets a little bit to be a concern is just stat-wise, Popper's Pupils, they opened up a pretty decent lead that's about to get even bigger off the urn.
The ability range on this Viscous is insane, by the way. Not only greater expansion, but also getting that ability range from Trophy Collector, which I must be near max stacked, if not full max by now. And then he's even going to go Divine Barrier. So he's got all these items that offer just little bits of ability range here and there. And it means these splatters just go absolutely everywhere in the team fight. John's still down. The mid-walker going to be challenged here. 1 rejuve remaining. Melee creeps there. Considering a contest, it would be very risky. A big punch puts Ido in a potentially compromising scenario as you can see these hits coming in, man. And Ido is he's out of the fight from 1 pummel punch and 1 splatter. He can't compete into this.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of value Xeno's been getting is unreal. The laser going to be enough to finish off the walker, and melee creeps wisely deciding, okay, we don't need to take the full team fight here. What's the point? What are we even fighting for at that moment?
Dopamine.
Yeah.
1 button, kill the camp.
Also, one thing that's kind of interesting, I haven't paid super close attention to see if this has been bought, but has it fallen out of favor? The get rebuttal against Viscous, where you're getting hit with like mass punch spam, is still one of the better.
You don't really punch spam anymore on this build, so.
But he kind of has been though. Like in these fights, like we've been seeing like Ido in particular get bopped around repeatedly, where just 1 rebuttal and it's like, oh, you want 30% more damage on GT? That's pretty good. Because I agree, normally it's about the splatter, but I mean, Xeno's been full service. He's been getting the whole buffet of goo onto melee creeps.
Yeah, I mean, you still parry the punches, of course, right? But it's just the rebuttal. I don't think the rebuttal makes a difference. Because if you miss a parry, you're still going to get the next punch on you anyway. The thing is, it's just in this late game, it's too much to parry the puddle punch. It's too hard, honestly. Even for players at this level, like if that much crap is flying at you in the team fight, you kind of have bigger problems sometimes than, I mean, people just aren't quite aware to parry. At least for me, the late game, people don't find it. Oh, big on to do the dream catch. Shiv getting brutalized by damage.
There was a second hook there too. He was not getting away. Affliction being dropped right here. No, it wasn't Affliction. There's a Scourge coming on in. But either way, Do just out of the fight entirely. And I mean, a clean pickoff for Popper's Pupils here. The only upside here, Jake, for melee creeps is that it's not going to lead to another mid boss, but this rift is absolutely just going to be free for the Pupils.
And I mean, as good as the late game is for this melee creeps draft, this could be a catch. They're trying to commit. Hook is in. Do they get the finish? Yes. Concussive comes in. There's no more evasion for Fish Cake. That's a huge kill. I mean, I think the Mirage maybe second to the Geist in terms of defensive power at this point in the game, but is certainly in that top 2 slot. So yeah, the base Guardian Siege is going to be coming in here. And with the Men in Black coming to follow it up, this is absolutely a shrine on the menu, even without Regives. I think you really have to consider it. A huge hook catches in onto Ido, pulls him deep out of the base. Luckily, he has the stam to slip away, but that's still going to drain the GT stam. Maybe Average trying to follow up on that kill goes way too deep, and here comes that counter punch. Tried desperately to finish that kill, but bites off way more than he can chew, and now even League called into question. A big stun on the 2 with the bird.
Another hook, this time on the John. Swap is up, though, so, I mean, I don't know if Geist is a target you want right now. Could get a little bit dangerous as the rest move on in, and yeah, well, it's just like, no, I'll be walking away from that one. The one hook target you don't want. Also, one thing to note here, Jake, too, in terms of scaling, it's been a tougher game for the GT on Ido, where, you know, Ido's doing as much as he can with his current farm, but it is only a plus 16 at 35 minutes. I mean,
this is a brutal game for Ido, to be honest. Like, there's so many heroes in this game that can kill you. Like, pretty much everyone on Popper's Pupils can kill Ido. So, like, I'm just impressed he's not feeding his brains out. Like, to be honest, like, this is a sacrificial GT game. If he can find some good impact in the fight, I think he's going to be very happy, because for me, like, this comp almost fully strategically counters you with so many heroes that get on top of GT, but a lot of cash now in the urn at this point in the game. We're 35 minutes in. This is a serious injection for Poppers, who's been, I think it's fair to say, a part of almost all of these key late game kills.
All right, Poppers Pupils. You know, the game was close for quite a while. In fact, can we get the soul graph here? Because the soul graph, you know, shows that this game was neck and neck for such a long period of time, but it's been, yeah, about the last 10, 15 minutes where things have gone drastically the other way. And, you know, you just wonder here, Jake, what is the win condition for melee creeps at the moment? They don't have a ton in the way of playmaking on their team, is the one thing about their comp. And
yeah, I'm worried about, like, how do you just play the map without, there's no vision hero here. There's no one on this comp who scouts and sort of sees players and gets more information. It's Silver. But we've seen with the way Lomane is playing here on the Bebop, you do not want to step into these sideways. Okay, a little side step on the hook is going to be good. The uppercut does connect, but it's like it's going to be just too much damage coming in on the Bebop. He feels a little bit threatened to come in on this. Dude, though, did get very low. A little bit of maybe a splatter from Xeno. Just nukes through his health bar. And a hook on Geist. Oh, even with the swap, he's going to instantly pop it. But Divine Barrier, great timing there from the Viscous to ensure there's no counter kill. And surely John hooked in that deep. Is just a matter of time before
Another
finish. The hook seals the deal. And I mean, honestly, ZB, I think that may be the game. Like, this fight, just pick off and pick off. Popper's Pupils just eviscerate this defense from melee creeps. This is going to be a full 6-player team wipe. They're going to get shrines and mid boss. I think this game is over.
Jake, you think about how Popper's Pupils was able to apply pressure in this game and make opportunities. I really think it begins and ends with Lomane. The amount of crucial hooks. Thinking back to that fight that took place on left lane and just some of the madness that has transpired recently, Lomane has just put the team on his back, created opportunity after opportunity, and at this point, the stat difference between the two teams is just too much. Able to take down the shrines as they go for mid-boss, peak efficiency, and as the lone member up as a Silver, you know, Boostio, what are you going to do about it?
No. I mean, there's literally nothing he can do. He just sits in the base. Is like the best play he can make here. I will say, wait, hold on, Poppers has almost died to the mid-boss. Okay, surely he'll be fine. They'll give him the reset on the crystal. This mid-boss is kind of taking a long time to die. Surely they can finish this, right? It's okay, like, that's actually kind of close. I mean, they might not have had the DPS, but Popper is going to get a very efficient reset here off the first crystal. And, I mean, it's going to be one last big buy for Popper's Pupils, but they have a full opportunity to reset, buy. The map is completely dark for melee creeps here. And I will just complicate your story. I agree. The aggression does begin with Lomane, with how many hooks he's able to find, but there's so many threats. You're worried about the Calico assassinating you. You're worried about Apollo popping some big nukes on you, Pocket finding an like. There's a lot of threats that can kind of come out of the woodwork at any time from the melee creep's perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's where you're taxing the attention on multiple ends, right? Where if you're sitting here and you're going, I hope there's not Calico behind that corner. I hope Apollo's not beside me. You're not looking out for this. The hook coming over and in. Counterspell, though. Dealing with the uppercut, but can't deal with the second hook. Get back Kiraido, says Lomain.
Affliction on 4, wrap it up, ZP. I've seen enough. Affliction on 4 breaks the back of the melee creeps. Poppers Pupils with triple rejuve may not even need a single one with how well this team fight is executed. Lomain just seemingly cannot miss a hook, and I mean, melee creeps, 2 players basically just waiting in the base for the Affliction to expire. They're gonna come out and step up and get that patron invuln, but I mean, they cannot stand the test of Poppers Pupils. And even in a game that went, I think, later than Poppers Pupils would have preferred, they managed to execute really well, playing the vision advantage to perfection and just getting pickoff after pickoff. Like, there wasn't really a late game team fight that I think melee creeps had built this draft for, where they can play defensive around a Geist and set up the fight for how they want. They were just getting hit from all sides. They could never get into that formation. And I think that's a testament to the skill of Poppers Pupils. Like, it is not easy to execute a style in that way. And I think maybe the ban on the pick heroes was a big part of their success. You just couldn't find the counter kills with all those high mobility flankers hitting you from behind.
Well, that's kind of the key that we were talking about too, is that towards the middle of the game, or middle of the end of the game, what win conditions and melee creeps have. I mean, realistically, you needed a big throw from Poppers Pupils because the comp melee creeps was running was not a comp that could really make its own opportunities when behind on the game. And, you know, they kind of go back to the point you brought up here, Jake. I think it's a fair one when you talk about the overall comp and pressure that Poppers Pupils had. And to me, I think it all just works in tandem, right? Is that you have the situation where if you're worried about the Calico, you're worried about the Apollo, you're not always looking out for the hook. And Lomain made really good use out of the opportunities provided, out of the overall pressure that the comp was in. And it just resulted in some massive hooks when it was needed most. And I mean, stuff like this,
he's too damn good sometimes. Yeah. Like a lot of these hooks, it's like, it is just crazy work when you get hooked like this. I don't even, for Boostio, I mean, like, how do you even see that one coming? But I feel like that's going to be the way this series goes. I think Poppers Pupils, for me, this comp is exactly the way they want to play Deadlock. Always aggressive, always looking for kills, always trying to find the openings that can then set them up for the objectives. And for melee creeps, I think this McGinnis, it like, arguably it did what it's supposed to do by taking the T1s, but like, honestly, did we feel any impact from McGinnis after like that first 5-10 minutes? I don't think there was a single, maybe there's like one team fight where the heavy barrage looked good, but it just did not scale.
Yeah, I think it had problems. I mean, there was that one point where they had the pick off on the average, but yeah, I tend to agree that the McGinnis fell off a bit over the course of the game. Also, you know, the check back in on the Boostio story, to me, I definitely see something which, again, you see a lot when people are new to the team's period, let alone a little bit newer to the comp on the game. To me, I think it was play that was probably a little bit too conservative for Silver. Like the Silvers that we see when they take over a game, you know, if Lord and M, for example, is having a good game, he's turbo aggro. If Do is having a good game, tends to be turbo aggro. And it was a Silver game to me that wasn't going out of its way to try and make opportunities, but also, you know, going out of its way to not feed, which is to me completely understandable, where it's your first showing here. You don't want to be the guy that, you know, feeds a million deaths, but I also think for a Silver to be effective, you do have to kind of push the limit and try and put yourself in situations where maybe you don't get out alive, but you get good value in turn. And I think, you know, the evidence of all this to me is that we just didn't really talk about Boostio much this game one way or another. Not involved in a lot of kills, but also not dying a lot at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, this is just I think this is a really just tough draft game. It's like you're kind of waiting for some of these ultra late game items that allow you to connect and get on top of the mobile players on Poppers Pupils. I think like Phantom Strike will be fantastic this game, but I just don't think they could ever get that online. And then in those late game, you know, I would call them team fights when it really just felt like, okay, Poppers Pupils is just somehow getting a kill onto John, and there's not another melee player.
Jake, I gotta interrupt you. How have you not lost your mind over a certain stat here? Did you see the criminality that Xeno did?
The top damage Viscous in this game is fully expected by me as a true Viscous enjoyer. But I mean, a perfect game from Xeno. Truly a perfect game. Insane damage impact. I'm saying this character legitimately scales into the late game. Like, legitimately is a very serious late game threat. The splatter is like, I think, one of the best, because it's one of the longest range and biggest AoE damage abilities in the entire game, especially when it's bouncing all over the lane and it's like hitting people you don't even mean to hit. You know, it's shades of like Scatter Arrow from back in the day.
Yeah, Scatter Arrow is actually a really good comparison. In fact, you know what, devs? Go the extra mile. We just need to have headshots on Splatter. Clearly just, you know, add in that little bit of extra RNG. No, please don't do that. It changed in the other game for a reason. But all in all, I mean, I gotta say, despite running the new comp, and some of the issues that you might have with either the McGinnis or, you know, maybe wanting a more aggressive Silver. I mean, melee creeps kept this game close until the end where, you know, the Bebop just proved to be a little bit too much of a problem with the hooks and the general pressure of the game. But it wasn't like this game was a stomp, Jake. I mean, you look at the graphs, this was close through the first like 25 minutes until finally Popper's Pupils was able to just, you know, go over the top and land pick after pick.
I will kind of bring it back to a one team fight for Popper's Pupils where Melee Creeps picks up a clean rejuve fight. They get all the rejuves, or I think most of them coming out. They're able to get a big walker push cooking for them. But they maybe just force the siege a little bit. And Popper's Pupils, even though they give up kills, they're able to clean off the rejuves and they're able to hold on to their walker. And those are the kind of fights that I think kind of make or break a team when things have turned against you. You don't actually have the advantage anymore. You're not just like, you know, hunting down kills and snowballing the game. You need to kind of take a fight and you know, get the enemy resources out and do better than them because they are working with more lives than you are. And when Popper's Pupils pulled that off, it felt like kind of from there on out, their mobility game is able to kind of really come back into the fore. And I think that's something that, you know, the double pick ban, although I don't think it accomplished like destroying Boostio, I think he played fine on the Silver, to be honest. I do think having no pick and catch heroes was a huge issue for the overall strategy that Popper's Pupils wanted to run. Like, I would have loved to see Melee Creeps with even like a Drifter, maybe taking the Bebop themselves a little earlier in this Game 2 draft. I just love something to punish these mobile heroes. Like, someone's got to stop Poppers. He's on a reign of terror on Calico. Every time low main gets a hook, right? It's Poppers there with the obscene damage from Calico to follow that one up.
All right, so Popper's Pupils, a few change-ups here, not a problem whatsoever. Up one game over Melee Creeps. Melee Creeps, can they bounce back and defend the title, or will we have a new champion here tonight in North America? Stay tuned. Map 2 coming up right after this. Welcome back. This is the Night Shift number 47. ZP here with Jake. And Jake, last game, it was close until about the middle of the end, and Bebop suddenly started landing some huge hooks, and the pressure took its toll. But it's just map 1, and if any team is a master of dropping a map and coming back, not always for the best reasons, sometimes they mess around, it's Melee Creeps. We've seen them go to 3 maps very often.
Yeah, they're a really strong team, I think, at making those adaptations to change the narrative of the game. One player I just don't I realize now, like, we didn't talk about him enough last game, is Leffa on the Pocket. I think this has been a really great hero for him, both off of his laning skill as an individual, where he's able to kind of come out of the lanes pretty strong on Pocket more often than not. But also in this game, I mean, he's found the key afflictions that the team needed. Founding some, 2 to 3 man, even a 4 man to finish the game off. And, that's what you need out of the Pocket. We've seen this hero be super high in the draft prio, and there's a good reason for it. I'm curious to see what the draft changes will be for Melee Creeps. I do think that last draft, it was a funky one. Maybe the double pick ban from the other side kind of flummoxed Melee Creeps. I'd love to see them be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more dynamic, just adding that one other hero into the mix that can kind of keep pace with Popper's Pupils and how fast they're playing Deadlock right now.
Yeah, also in terms of like, look, the other team's going to be playing high pressure game styles. I think you be like EU and you drop the GT. Like GT, we're talking a little bit in the break. I feel like GT is in the spot right now where even when GT was like super good and having high performance and was a higher priority in the draft, it was kind of feast or famine. But I think the thing that's working against GT a little bit right now is that people have also gotten used to playing against GT, and you do introduce this like loss condition where people can go aggro against GT in the way they can't against other heroes. I don't know. I'm not as convinced of GT as a hero. I think the McGinnis also fell off a little bit. Overall, for me, the Melee Creeps draft probably could have been a little bit more traditional and had better success. But more importantly, too, Jake, look, regardless of if the Paradox is getting banned as a target ban in the Boostio, you need to have some form of pick in some way to get things going, especially if you find yourself a little bit behind.
Opening with the Mirage ban this time. So Popper's Pupils, I feel like this is more proof than anything that Boostio passed the test last game. All right, he got the double ban, and it was like, he did okay. He did good enough on the Silver where it was like, okay, it definitely wasn't worth using 2 bans to put him on the Silver. Melee Creeps, though, understandably, they're going to get rid of the Viscous. The late game scaling, so crazy. And the Cube, honestly, making a big difference to all these high mobility heroes getting a couple seconds to reset their cooldowns. I think the Viscous is the perfect hero for the way that Popper's Pupils want to play, of high damage, a lot of evasiveness and elusiveness. But as I say that, out of the frying pan into the fire, I think maybe Doorman is even better, right? Like, well, the team-wide shenanigans you can pull with the Door. Another hero that is just exactly what Popper's Pupils want to play with. And Lowman has been one of the better Doormans. I mean, obviously, there's still a lot of heroes he can come to play. Melee Creeps, though, grab a Pocket more than likely for Ido. So you're going to get your wish, I think, that maybe no GT in this one. And a Pocket undoubtedly a much stronger hero in the current patch.
My question is, do they overdraft the Paradox here? Because I think Paradox may still get picked up by Popper's Pupils if it's available. Or sorry, Melee Creeps. Okay. Popper's Pupils, they can grab the Paradox to deny here because I think Melee Creeps would probably go for it before the mid-stage bans. That's kind of the interesting part to me, if they decide to mix that in or not. And also, again, get more pick heroes away from Melee Creeps if they want to keep up that level of target banning. Otherwise, and first going to get picked, and who's still available right now, Jake, is Billy.
It's a good point. Wouldn't mind seeing Billy here. I do think Geist is pretty decent into that matchup, but still maybe not enough to scare you off of picking the hero in the first place. I think Calico is another one that Popper's Pupils really like.
Let's get this
I think there's they will. I think I will say the lane with Cali plus Infernus is a very, very sick lane for me. It's like Calico's constantly in your face, kind of hard to hit. She's being evasive, and then Infernus is also ultra. I think this Infernus can be played as one of the most aggressive laners, like peeking under your tower and igniting you. And Calico just really, exactly wants to play that kind of a game plan. Melee Creeps grab the silver again, and I'm not mad at it. I think some of that lockdown can be good at catching Doorman and maybe trying to get him off of his door for just a moment, just long enough to burst him down.
Now, I'm curious on for Popper's Pupils, do you ban the Paradox? Because there's a world where Melee Creeps, they can put Dew on the silver and then put Boostio on the Paradox. Billy, though, going to be taken down in mid-stage bans. Popper's Pupils mid-ban is going to be really interesting to me because I still think, you won with the target bans last time around. Do you go for it again, or do you go a little bit more broad spectrum on what you want to remove? And okay, they decide, nope, we're going to go for the Paradox once again, just a little bit later in the draft this time.
I mean, a lot of players on Melee Creeps can handle the Paradox well. It's like for Saya, it's kind of been a pocket pick, a little bit deep in the pocket with him playing, more of the supporting style characters a little more often, but Paradox is definitely a strong one for them, and I think it is an annoying hero that slows the game down, in some regards. Holiday, though, also adds that playmaking flair that I think Melee Creeps were kind of missing last game. So Popper's Pupils, see what they draft next. I'd love to see something in the front line. I think they're a little bit light on that front right now.
I think they grab Bebop again. I don't think they necessarily have to grab it here. They go for the GT, which again, I don't know if they necessarily need to. I think NA is still prowling GT a little bit more highly than EU is, but in terms of pick potential, especially with how it worked out last time where you had a lot of similar things on the team in regards to having the Calico, I think you go for the Bebop, though I don't think you have to pick it until the end. However, with Lash being
picked,
the Lash pick. I think could just be low main on the Lash. They may just throw aside the Bebop here.
I think this is a great Lash game. Really like to see the Lash into Lady Geist in particular. Silver also can be pretty vulnerable to it, and just a ton of spirit damage in this Popper's Pupils comp. So Pocket is going to be very threatened to this game. If he gets locked down whatsoever, he is just going to be pretty much caught dead to rights here. So some potential trouble for Ido, although if there was a player who I could trust to maybe handle some of those situations and slip away, it'd probably be Ido, one of the OGs on Pocket in NA. And the last pick is going to be the Yamato here for Melee Creeps, a character that has been often ignored. It's fair to say, I think in North America is kind of on the cusp of playable, but not necessarily dominant.
Also, this is one of the more frontline centered comps we've seen all day across EU and NA, where you got Yamato, you got Shiv, you got Silver, and a Geist. And okay, it's going to be the friends, enemies, rivals set up here, more so on the rivals with Bebop and Lash, rounding things out for Popper's Pupils. So yeah, low main on the Bebop, probably going to be the play. I don't think you'd put anyone else on him. We've seen low main play things like the Lash. Looking over the Melee Creeps, though, also, Jake, you have some interesting things here where Ido looked amazing on Holiday in recent memory, but also apparently that's in Boostio's hero pool, and Ido still has time on Silver. Dew, of course, can play Silver and Shiv. My guess is probably Dew on the Shiv, and then the Silver Holiday stuff between Ido and Boostio, I actually have no clue. We don't have enough data.
I would assume it'll be Sai on the Holiday, right? I feel like that's...
No, it's Ido last time around.
No, but I mean, because it's... Yeah. Because,
okay.
I'm surprised to see this lineup though with Ido on the Yamato. That'll be an interesting one. I don't recall seeing him on the Yamato in games past.
Yeah.
I was expecting it would be Fishcake on the Yam, Ido on Pocket, and Dew on Shiv. That would have made more sense to me. But I the fact that they've gone this way, I do think Fishcake's solid on the Shiv, and Dew has also been really a stalwart Pocket player for a long time now. And I mean, this is the nature of these top teams, right? They can kind of flex and play as they need to. Average on the great talent. Definitely going to be some questions asked of the GT in this game with how it kind of fell flat in the last match. maybe suits Popper's Pupils a little bit better in their, like kill aggressive oriented style. Those birds maybe can make the difference. For me, I'm always interested to see Lash. I think this character can be so threatening and just such an effective damage hero. But if you don't have that strong early game that you really want, then okay, you kind of become a bit of an ult bot. And honestly, I don't think that's going to be good enough in this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is super interesting how the hero breakdown went. I mean, looking at it now, it kind of makes sense. Pocket would be neither Ido or Do. Obviously, you'd look at it like, maybe it's more Ido, but you also had the weird things of like, well, what about the Holiday? And okay, Sai gets to go back to his roots on the Holiday. Looking at Popper's Pupils and what they're playing here, though, the one thing I'm actually a little bit hesitant on is that Average's overall history as a player is playing things that are aggro. It is playing more frontline, it is playing in people's faces. And I don't think the GT is entirely unprecedented, but even in recent times, we haven't seen Average on it as much. So the GT to me is probably the biggest gamble of this entire draft, and we'll see if it pays off. I think between the two teams, I'd probably favor the melee creeps draft a little bit, Jake. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think this draft definitely gives them a much better shot than game one to kind of keep pace and play with the tempo gameplay for those pickoffs a little bit more evenly. I think they're going to be quite happy to have their hands on Pocket and Holiday in this particular game to maybe play for those active fights. For Popper's Pupils, this game, though, a lot rides on the Doorman. I mean, I think that's a factor we can't underestimate. There's a reason this character is probably one of the rarest characters to see get past that initial ban phase because, and even in the late game, right, it just introduces this crazy X factor that the entire enemy team could just clown car out of the wall at any time, and you really have a tough chance to see it coming. Leffa getting kind of smoked on that trade by Do, though. Getting a little bit dueled here. Wants to get an ignite and just can't quite get it. Pretty well played by Do on the Pocket.
I mean, not that the lanes are weak here, but they did split up who's laning with what. Last time around, we saw the Infernus Calico lane. This time around, it's like, no, we're going to do Infernus Bebop, throw over the Calico into the Lash lane, and middle is a Doorman GT lane. I mean, okay, you talk about poke damage in middle, while I still think it's actually winnable for Holiday Geist. That is a lane where if you fall behind, you are just done. Like, the HP tax you're getting between power shots and bells is actually remarkably difficult to deal with.
I'm always a fan of the John style lane. I feel like the two of them have such great coordination. They really seem to come out of these early lanes, especially for whatever reason in the mid, really strong. With Saya being happy to take a lot of these rotates. But definitely a lot, you're right to call it, rests on how the lane goes itself. You don't win the lane, it's not going to be so easy to rotate out of it.
Jake, it's kind of funny. I was talking with John actually just the other day about laning in particular. He's like, yeah, laning chemistry matters a lot. You got me and Sai in a lane, and even E6 players look like they're an ascendant. Like they are very well aware of the fact that those two have just like laned together so much that they have next level chemistry with each other. But they're gonna need it if they don't want to get poked down against a Doorman GT lane.
Early trades, no one's going, I think, too crazy in any of these lanes. No surprise, of course, with potential elimination on the cards here. Popper's Pupils up 1-0 in the series. Melee Creeps trying to get into a good, solid game of Deadlock here. And honestly, from EZP, I don't know who to call it for in the late game between these two squads. I mean, both teams investing, I think, a lot more into the early game here.
Yeah, I mean, between the late game, I think, truthfully, I think Melee Creeps has the better late game. It depends a little bit on Average's ramp. Like, obviously, if you have a GT that's working closer to 100 plus spirit at 25 minutes, then your late game is fantastic. Screw everything else. But if it is a normal GT game to even on the lower end, I do think Popper's Pupils is again a little bit on the clock, but the X factor here is just how good is your Bebop going to play, because yeah, Bebop normally falls off, but if you land the hooks that low main was landing, you feel good all game long. So that it is a little bit harder to judge just on virtue of how good low main was in the last game.
This lane's going to be pretty defensive here. Boostio and Fishcake here, Silver Shiv. Maybe with a couple levels in the knives, they could think about some kind of a kill here, but mostly just going to be tanking it up, giving a little bit of Guardian HP. Speaking of tanking it up, Leffa has to soak a lot of damage here. Big wave crashing, a lot of denies coming in. This has been a real strong lane. Ido and Do on the other side have been certainly twisting the screws, and with the Furnace this low, it's pretty hard to go up and look for these ignites.
Also, I mean, again, you have lane inertia here, where if you get the slows and furnace earlier on, it also limits your ability to be aggressive and, you know, look for sparks, take HP trades because you're so low, the HP trade's gonna be bad. But speaking of getting dove on right now, Calco getting a taste of her own medicine, Poppers all sorts of low, and is Saya gonna go for it? Saya does. That was Saya on a field trip off and away from middle, Jake, and a successful one at that.
Yeah, great roam, picks up a kill, is going to be able to make it back to mid before there's too much Guardian damage put in from the other side. So, first lead of the game, taken here by melee creeps.
Saya, back or in the mid. Not even too much of a penalty play or paid in the middle. You look at the Guardian, yeah, it pays a little bit of attacks, but nothing too bad. Lemaine elsewhere, hook on cooldown, and this lane probably going to be a little bit more calm for a moment, but once hook is back up, who knows?
Could turn into something here. Ido's sticking around. Ooh, Lemaine really wants to get a hook under tower, I think. Wants to be able to respond defensively. Lefa sticking around in this lane. Trying to be as greedy as he can here in the early game on Infernus. But in the mid lane, average down to super critical HP. Looks like a bit of a tower dive coming in from John.
See, both teams getting a little bit scrappy with it, and okay, in on the left for melee creeps.
Double buff again. Melee creeps, they've been so aware of these early buffs. Last game, I think it was able to be a pretty nice boon to them. Picking up those buffs, able to throw their weight around. Gun buff on Yamato kind of sucks, to be honest, at this point. But a vitality buff on Shiv is pretty fantastic, right? A lot of sustain for a character that loves to mix it up and burger box in the early game.
A little bit of harassment onto Boostio, as Boostio is off farming the chapel, and might turn into a lot of bit of harassment here. Poppers, namesake of Poppers Pupils. A little bit of extra harass as see Boostio going down to about half. Knives though, back the other way.
Ooh, Shiv could be in trouble here. Pops the bloodletting as well, but Calico doesn't want to overcommit with 2 knives in her. One more knife could be real trouble. Beautiful boot kick. Puts Calico in a compromising position. One more knife, I think, is a kill here. But I don't know that Shiv even has another cooldown left. Maybe Silver could run this one down. Yeah, Calico forced into an awkward runaway, but just turns it around.
3 knives,
and
not
gets
a
the kill
problem.
on Shiv.
Yeah, 3 knives, not a problem. Return the shadow, going into an even deeper dive here on the Boostio. Backed up by Lash, but HP not the highest here at the moment.
Lash.
So Boost, yeah, I mean, Lee nearly falls, but elsewhere in the map, parry into Dude just falling.
Oh, that is huge. That really restores the fortunes of Poppers Pupils in that side lane. That was, I think, one of their weaker lanes so far. And with that parry kill, I mean, that was also Dude's affliction, and he doesn't really get anything for it. Lefa's gonna have to go back to base. Sure, that's some kind of consolation prize, but for Lomane and Lefa, the patience pays off.
Gilbane coming out here from Lefa as Saya on the hunt. Of course, as soon as you get ult up on things like Holiday, you are out looking to make plays. Lasso, not something you want on cooldown for a long period of time. So given that Saya was even doing roams pre-Lasso, you just got to keep an eye on your mini-map here, because at any given time, Saya's just going to go, John, lane's yours. I'm off to cause a little bit of chaos. But also, GT is a pretty tasty target within mid lane itself.
Yeah, definitely Lasso would be a key skill here. Always is when you're able to make those pick-off connections. Ground strike comes in, puts a little bit of damage down. Looks like fights breaking out in the other lanes. Oh, Yamato diving so deep. Concussive Combustion just trying to deal what damage it can. It is just barely going to proc, so a little bit of damage comes in on Yamato, but 2 kills simultaneously across the map. Yamato in big trouble. Does get a heavy connection off, though. Could mean that Lomane could turn into a bit of a follow-up kill. Ido really thinking about the chase down, but put some respect on it. Isn't going to go for the dive. Meanwhile, in mid lane, Lasso wasn't even used. Zeno just trades 1 for 1 with Saya, so a real bloodbath across the map. And now here comes the dive from Pocket. Eventually does swing in to pick up Lomane, who is also trying to greed it out and defend this wave.
I was keeping an eye on middle. I mean, that started with Sai taking a trip to the Baroness Hotel, and oh my goodness, a parry in the middle. Average is having a terrible time. John able to chase it down, finishes off the Guardian, and all these ult trade-offs in the middle have gone the way of melee creeps. And hey, that lasso's still up and maybe about to be used. Saya on the hunt here and now. However, John in some danger, no swap available, blows up as the trades continue, and another parry. This is Jake, did someone order some burgers? What's going on here?
This is NA Burger Box Central as these parries turn to kills across the map. Poppers People's trying to get a little bit of blood for the blood gods for themselves here, but Melee Creeps come away, I think, with a pretty strong victory after those trades across the map, right? They pick up a nice lead here, 4,000 souls. Not bad this early on in the game. Cape out, though, still a threat of igniting here on the pocket. A bird coming in. Gonna set that one up pretty comfortably. Flame Dash can keep the ignite going just barely, and that should be enough for the kill onto Do. Counter kill is going to be attempted, but this Infernus is pretty strong. No ulti here for Ido. Not necessarily a free kill, even with Affliction taking that parry should be just enough.
Jake, we need one of those signs of, it's been X amount of days without a workplace accident. It's been X amount of seconds without a parry occurring, because it has been nonstop in this game. That time around going in favor of Ido. But, you distill down on the chaos that we've been looking at here, Jake, overall, and I actually see a pretty reasonable lead coming out from Melee Creeps. I'm not talking about the aggregate. John is rich with how middle lane is gone. Saya's been leaving pretty often, leaving John the solo farm, and John's about to hit 10K pre-10 minutes, and no one on Popper's Pupils is remotely close. So John is a real force of nature at the moment, and probably about to pick up buff without a whole lot of contention.
Yeah, this has been really the recipe for success for Melee Creeps, is just get John at a very hot start. Saya will go down and feed a 500 bag, though. To low main, who's going to be pretty happy with that one. Buffs spawning should be just 1-to-1 here. A Spirit buff for Lash is going to be quite nice with ultimate online. See what League gets into soon. Shiv coming to farm this lane is a little risky. Yeah, he's like, maybe he thinks better of that. His low main, ooh, maybe even looks for more.
John gonna pick up the urn. I mean, his greed sickens me at this point, where I'm ahead of the game. Let's get further ahead of the game. It is absolutely the right play, because here's the thing with the new urn. If you want to stop John from turning in, you have to hop in and be part of the welcoming party. And
they're around, though. Look at Low
There's 3 people there. Do they go for it? John has
He's right behind you. Okay, Low Main. In a weird position here on Bebop. John may just go for this kill. Yeah, Low Main competing a rock in a hard place. Missed position here from the Bebop. Although, hold on, he's pretty tanky, actually, and they're going to turn around. It was a bit of a bait the whole time. Popper's Pupils trying to bring more numbers into this fight and keep it on rolling. But Ido and Fishcake are also here, so League looks to be potentially getting run down. Maybe an attempt at a counter kill with the bird coming in. A lot of low targets. Poppers, so many players to kill, but so little abilities with which to find them. And ultimately, it will be the Calico going down. A great fight for Melee Creeps. Everybody getting low, but staying alive, living to fight another day.
I think the most heinous thing about that fight is that not only does John get the urn to wait, John's in trouble. Just got the hotel guest, but got the swap off. Though. Yeah, got the swap off right after. So okay, you don't want to be here anymore. Like, you're not here for checkout. It is self-checkout. But okay, as I say that, Lomain wants a
nice
piece.
Parry.
Lomain didn't want to be in there, even with the parry. This is dangerous to be in the neighborhood. John comes out full HP, takes it down, still down the scrap as the remainder of Popper's Pupils look to rotate in. This may be a little bit too much for John here. Finally goes down. But it's a full team effort and rotation to make it happen.
I mean, this is one of the burger boxes of all time here. This is truly North America. These teams have been non-stop brawling for the last 5 minutes. You know, this is something we've seen before, I think, from Popper's Pupils. These players, like, they love to push the pace, but I like when Melee Creeps is kind of like willing to tango at that speed, not trying to necessarily slow the game down, willing to kind of keep these trades flowing. It has meant this lead is, I would say, pretty insignificant. You know, a few thousand souls at this point spread across the team. It's not going to be doing much. And that kill onto John, very, very valuable, right? He's on 13K, but I mean, he would have been really exploding in the net worth if he could walk away from that last fight.
Yeah, I think it's easy to underrate it, but if John had gotten another kill or two there and more uncontested farm, I mean, John would have just locked in his server admin credentials. It would have been miserable for Popper's Pupils. It's still a pretty big threat, but something that's doable with here. One thing I'm curious on, can we get a check on the average on Owl Stacks? I think it still may be a 0, which, you talk about win conditions and momentum for the game. A 0 stack GT at 13 minutes, is a little bit worrisome. 2-man Affliction, though, as we talk about this.
That's a good find from Do. Looks like a fight on the other side of the map. John's trying to clean it up, so it's going to be a split engagement. Popper's Pupils with massive numbers advantage here on the Rift, but Boostio's waiting around on the side. Could slip in for a cheeky contest. Seems like they'll elect not to, though, with just too many players from Popper's Pupils here in this part of the map. And as the dust settles, it's a pretty good trade for the Pupils. Unless guys with these 10 stacks of Berserker could bring down the Walker, which, whoa, maybe she can. It's going down quick here with the help of Fishcake on shift.
You don't want John getting Walker kills. Even though it's not a solo Walker kill, that is not ideal. Also elsewhere.
Lasso, but Saya's getting beamed down. I mean, he's trying to lasso into the walker, but he's coming right into low main, who may be more threatening than the walker with that Bebop laser. Bustio's doing his best to try and get this defense, but the minion's still crashing on the tower. It's going to be a pretty close one. Bustio, dog put on a leash, even hooked, I believe, out of the jump here, so just doesn't have the gap closed. And it's going to be cleaned up by Bebop.
Still just wondering why her mercenary intelligence was wrong. It's like, I thought these two hated each other. Why do you get the Bebop Lash combination play? Down, though, in the tunnels, average power shot on the Ido. Finds him, takes him out. And a little bit of life now for Popper's Pupils. Good trades across the map. They get a walker of their own. Up 5K on the total. And really all they give up there, Jake, which, you know, is something, is a little bit of extra target farm to John.
I'm starting to have a little bit of worries, ZP, about this heavy frontline draft from melee creeps. I think this sort of draft can start to run into issues into the late game when some of the AoE damage just starts to get out of control, right? When you're just getting cooked by, you know, the concussive combustion or something like that. Like all these grouped up players can be a liability. Even when, especially Calico, I think Arctic Blast is another big moment where this hero goes from, you know, a threat to just like a tank shredder, right? That can even burn through the toughest frontliners. John, I like that he buys a Spirit Resiled, though. It's going to mean that he's going to be able to keep fighting, keep this tempo high. With a movement buff as well, this could be a moment for John to really start to throw his weight around.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you want to push the advantage sooner rather than later. But the other thing that's a little bit worrying for average, take a look at the stacks here, Jake. What are you reading right now on the stacks for average?
I can't read ZP, so no, it looks like a big fat zilch. You don't even see the stat counter. Pain. Oh man, we're doing them like that. Production. That's brutal. Over to the Yam though, who's getting ganked. No ulti here, and she's in a brutal spot. Just swarmed by players, and maybe Ido is trying to get a cheeky shop off. It does set up a 3-man affliction for Do, but Do potentially still caught in a compromising scenario. The doorman door getting real trippy here in the room. 2 players afflicted on literally 1 HP. Both will be cleaned up. Do finds 3 in the fight, but there's still some low players here. And AVG poking in from the outside, holding the urn. Maybe thinks better of coming back in for more kills. In the end, it's a 3-on-3 with urn control going to Popper's Pupils. A win for them, but only just.
Does John contest this? Like, I think John make it
no
the dunk.
contest here. He might try and blast his souls, but
okay, now you got the re-engage here, though. We got Ido back in the play, and they are just going as GT relentlessly. There's nowhere average can go to this sort of dive. So, okay, you get the urn, you get instantly put into the ground. Still probably worth overall for the urn, but, you know, a lot of the edge kind of blunted at the end of it. And now, I mean, man up. I think melee creeps is going to be a little bit more aggressive. Look for something else here. John
Geist has to be able to play her way out of this. And she's still threatening.
Exchange.
Yeah. Oh, the lasso missed. And Saya's going to pay for that one. Although no uppercut to lock down this Holiday. Speaking of lockdown, she's going to be taking a bomb into the Baroness. And big laser over the top. Saya's coming back into a world of hurt here. About to be ground struck to hell. League picks up that quick kill. And with the bird coming in, John's low. Does have a swap on the Geist, but just can't really stick around in this fight. So a very close lasso for Saya, but as it misses, low main does not.
+8 on the board. Elsewhere though, Bustio under a bit of pressure under the tower, but okay, maybe a curse dive from Poppers. Bustio able to take it down, no HP lost in the process.
In trouble.
And yeah, if you're left right now, flying strike coming on in. However, if you're Ido, you know, you take a step back, you don't immediately want to dive in, wait for others to come into play, and that's more than enough to take down Leffa. You don't always have to be the first one as Yamato with, I mean, those 2 pickoffs is mid-boss in the cards.
He's going to go for the mid-boss here, and yeah, with the Yam ult, it's going to be very scary. Affliction as well, due up to 21k. He's more than ready to take this challenge. It's just going to be League, really, with the Lash ult to maybe change their fortunes. There are some low players there, though, so at melee creeps, they've got to be getting these rejuves still. 2-man affliction found early. All 3 rejuves here. Claim for melee creeps, but a massive death slam here from the Lash is going to take these rejuves away. Post haste, everybody low on the side of melee creeps, and these death timers, short as they may be on the back of the rejuve, it's enough of a player advantage for Popper's Pupils to get all of those rejuves off of the board. And at this point, melee creeps just going to be happy to walk away with their lives.
Yeah, and on the same note for Popper's Pupils, you love that play. Giving up 2 lives to get rid of all the rejuves, it's huge. However, Average is in all sorts of danger. Takes the barrel from all ends here, off the wall, and then a final barrel to finish off with the aid of John. Saya able to land all the angles. Doesn't matter if you're in the air.
Lasso coming up off cooldown, ZP. This could turn into a bit of a snowball. If Saya could find like one more pickoff here, it would be massive. Very aggressive positioning, but of course no real risk. Do already had his cape out and about on the map, teleports back, and I will say it's a scary rift, right? With none of those regions available, a lot of ults deployed in the last fight for melee creeps. How is this rift challenge going to look without the Yam ult or the Affliction?
You still got Geist, and you still got Geist with ult. I think Geist's ability, assuming that we see John rotate over here, it's just very difficult to play around Geist.
They're a little bit later, though. They're late to the party here, ZP. Popper's Pupils are strong right here. Yeah, Duke cannot play in the cap. Gets boxed off pretty immediately. Yeah, John's going back to base for a buy. They're giving up the rift, and they can't contest it. That's going to be quite a pretty penny into the pocket here for Popper's Pupils, playing against Pocket. Pocket looking to be going down. Extremely low critical health. League chases it down on his 6th streak for this Lash. It's been a relatively slower game for him, but he's quietly picked up a nasty kill streak. A Walker in mid, maybe to be the trade, but it doesn't seem to be a free one. No ultimate available for Ido. Walker Stomp is going to come down. Concussive comes in as well. Sly at this point, maybe resigned to his fate and wants to just do whatever it takes to bring down that Walker. It'll be Ido who sacrifices himself for it. But Saya's not out of the woods yet either. I mean, he's going back into enemy territory here, and roving Bebop Laserman. I cannot believe that Lomane is keeping up with this movement, but somehow he's still right on the tail here of Saya.
We're just seeing holiday things, and wait, was that a power shot? From afar, something nearly clipped Saya, but I think, wait, it's still Calico.
They're diving. Poppers is here.
Not free. Calico may be able to chase it down. It does. Poppers finally takes down one of the most evasive heroes in the game, but hey, you got some moves yourself if you're Calico. Elsewhere, we got Average with the Urn. Clean break. Should just be a free turn in. And look, can we get a look at the soul graph here? Because this has been back and forth. It is about to be even here once more. And is Boostio dead? Boostio, I think, is on the wrong end of an Infernus, and yeah.
Headhunter, Mystic Shot online for Leffa. It makes the Napalm hurt so hard. All that raw damage amp on Headhunter is completely insane on Infernus. I think that's really one of the biggest reasons that particular item and ability synergy really has made this hero shine. But also the team fights, and that late kill to Boostio really hurts because Melee Creeps have every ult. They almost would love to be fighting right now, but I'm not so sure that they can without Boostio. So they're likely having no choice here but to giving up doubles, not being able to fight with their ultimate tempo. And here comes even a hook in. Actually, fighting. It's going to be Lomane who wants to force this one. I think maybe he will think better of that decision. Going to get knocked down to the floor, bleed out to the Shiv knives here. Fishcake will pick up that kill.
Jake, that's what we call instant karma, where it goes from the I hook you, it's like, no, I lasso you. And unfortunately for Lomane, Saya had way more friends in the area. Look, if all things got protected in Deadlock, protecting your sources of gambling is the important thing, because Jake, as you often say, never stop gambling.
Never stop gambling. That's what I always say to the children, especially young kids. You know, I like to keep them educated. You know, it's just public service. That's what we do here on the night shift. You want to support us? You know, drop a Twitch sub, drop a like in the chat. And this match, it's too close to call with these teams. Both teams have good scaling into the late game. You know, the skirmishes have been going this way and that. I think a lot rides on the execution from, I mean, especially Saya. Spellslinger bought up for John, though. That is quite the big buy. I feel like this is a big moment where Geist tends to have a lot of rate of fire problems and will not have those problems anymore with Spellslinger online. Spearburn for Do. So the late gamers are late gaming.
Yeah, and again, between the drafts here, where average I think is still at, at only +8, +16, I think the scaling is pretty tough for Popper's Pupils. Once more, you're hoping is like, hey, Lomane, you got another miracle game in you for pressure, but I don't even think the circumstances for landing hooks are as good as last game. If nothing else, the GT's on your team this time, not on the other. But yeah, we've summed it here. We've said to Lomane, you have a challenge out. Will Lomane answer it? In a moment, we'll have to see, because that is one of the best ways for Popper's Pupils to take an edge in this game right now, Jake, is for Lomane to land one of those hooks.
Majestic Leap, next buy for Pocket. Always a very nice one for getting those big afflictions, right? Being able to cross long distances, punish the enemy for grouping. I will say one interesting thing about the souls here is melee creeps are almost like ultra invested into Pocket and Geist, which, hey, as late game heroes go, you know, you're not going to be too mad at those particular two being so rich. But the rest of the team are some broke boys. Like, they're seriously, like, Shiv and Yamato are not heroes that want to be poor. They can be okay not necessarily being ultra rich, but, you know, to be, like, they're at the Bebop tier here, which is not a good tier. Like, Lomane is also a broke boy. But at least, I mean, Bebop, you don't care about the souls, right? You just buy Curse at some point. You'll be useful.
Yeah, I mean, particularly the Yamato. I mean, it's a fair point that even on draft analysis, you know, could have brought up is that there's a lot of mouths to feed here on melee creeps. Not everyone is going to get the farm. Lasso attempt by Saya does not hit the small hitbox of Ava. However, the barrels are still out, so is the flying strike. Doesn't mean that Popper's out of danger yet. In fact, Popper's just getting bursted down. No lasso required. Enough explosives were brought to bear. Clean pickoff here so far from melee creeps. And we'll see if Popper's Pupils dives in response, or it's just a straight mid boss here from melee creeps.
They might go for it. It will not be free, though. Absolutely is going to get contested if you try, especially with, I love the way Popper's Pupils are just keeping a lot of players around the mid lane. Both side waves are really terrible here, so I don't think that there's going to be much opportunity to force an objective, especially with Calico being a hero that can kind of get back into that mid boss fight relatively quickly. Lomane just sharking around mid, though. Maybe hoping, you know, Wayward Yamato tries to take a cheeky farm around the mid lane. I do think this mid area is pretty scary for melee creeps to play, unless they bring the whole team and they're really ready for the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's very tense. Even with the pickoff, melee creeps think better of going for the mid boss. Like, they flirted with it for a moment, said, nah, we're going to wait. The hook opportunity there, a lot scarier than expected. And look at the setup. Standing by the door, up here for buffs, looking for the ambush. Buff is up and immediately grab casting buff here for Lomane. And perhaps a quick retreat as the fight is yet to be engaged.
You just can't fight with this door here. This door is insane value. I mean, it lets the Bebop be in such an aggressive position, but in no risk to himself. Although, hold on, maybe is some risk as he leaves the door. The flying strike maybe pulls this Yamato in. Maybe will live to regret that. Is Yamato more than happy to just keep chasing it down? The damage just overwhelms Aido, gets deleted before he gets his ult off. Just couldn't react in time. Concussive hits on a few. It's a good enough affliction maybe for Do, but with John dropping, there's real questions about if anybody can stand toe-to-toe with Levas Infernus at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 3-man affliction. It's a good way to set the tone, but is turning into a scrap fest here towards the end. We get to see Fishcake out of the Baroness, still at good HP. Saya and Boostio, though, are incredibly low. They need to disengage ASAP. Zeno, unable to find the escape. Fishcake is able to hunt him down. Melee creeps more of an edge so far in this fight. However, Boostio gets caught towards the tail end. One by one, the trade-outs keep happening, and now the Shiv of Fishcake looking a little bit low right now, but they want to take this fight against average. GT, one of the easier targets, but you're just too low HP and you're getting set on fire.
Has to pop the debuff just for the heal, and another burn will certainly be his death. Pocket cannot afford to tank this Infernus. Everybody just has to run from Infernus here. Infernus ignites you, you are dead at this moment in the fight. They're trying to keep this one going, but as the kills start to come in, these heal banes coming online, Lefa so incredibly low, somehow has slipped away from Do for now, has to run to the underground. It's now just full retreat for Infernus. Motto also respawned back into the fight completely full of gas. The teleport out isn't in time. Yeah, not just quite. Do does get that final finish onto Lefa. That was tenuous, but Do and Fishcake did incredibly well to stay alive so long on such low HP.
Lefa being down for 45 seconds as the rift comes up. Sif Melee Creeps makes a rotation over here into the rift.
Elite can't fight this, man. Maybe he goes for the delay, but you just cannot 1v1 the Shiv here. I mean, he is rich on Lash. Counterspell's gonna be a nice block, a little bit of the damage from the uppercut. Still an ultimate available for Aido. He's going for the chase down, but Bebop is a tanky SOB here. Surely they'll be able to finish this kill, especially with no Walker there for the defense. And yeah, backup just not there for Lomane. Without Lefa, they don't think they can really take these fights.
I mean, Aido, really good disengage into multiple re-engages there, courtesy of Flying Strike. Affliction put out. Just gonna hit on the Zeno, but still enough to make Zeno think twice about going a little bit deeper in the fight. Melee Creeps would love to get a little bit more here. Two are down. Mid-boss about to be the field of battle. Mid-boss getting taken down relatively quickly, but it's not all of Melee Creeps here in the mid-boss. The rest trying to clean up on top. They're able to chase down Zeno. The Affliction was still on him. Boostio finishes it off, and oh no, a certified floor man moment.
No, vintage floor man is now with a couple kills. It's really up to League to find some counters. Does shut down one. A second goes down. Great power shot connection onto John just a few seconds away from that swap cooldown. Boostio incredibly low. These siphon bullets really starting to bite on the tankier frontliners, and It has been all league this game. I mean, just dominating through the match. And Ultimate here comes out, and maybe that'll be enough to finally bring him down. Does have Flog coming up in a second. Lifesteal is good. Gets the heal pain for the finish. Enough heals to stay alive a moment longer, and I think...
I see Shiv.
Okay, I
like
think that was
that. I'm
Discord.
back.
Wait, we're back. I don't know how much was seen here. We got our feedback, but all I was saying, Jake, the true winner of that fight, the mid boss, the one left standing.
Exactly. I mean, I really well played from League. I don't know when I lost my feet. I was going ham through all of that, but League is putting on quite the show there. Gets a lot of counter kills to kind of bring a fight back that was looking pretty dire, honestly. There was a moment there, Pupils are down 2, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is just the game. The Melee Creeps cannot escape the Lash, who is, speaking of what we talked about a little bit in the draft, right, has definitely scaled into the point of being a very real damage threat. And that heavy spirit damage really hurts in the late game, especially on some of these heroes. Like, oh, Shiv, though, hooked in deep. The counter spells paying dividends and then some for these frontliners as they're able to block a lot of these uppercut hook follow-ups from low main.
I mean, it's just standard, but speaking of initiations, we got the lasso on the Poppers. Doesn't dodge it this time. The welcoming crew is there, and Poppers, low HP, taken down by John at the end, not quite able to turn the corner. Another advantage here from Melee Creeps. Hyper Beam making a little bit of space, but Melee Creeps, do they go back down the mid-boss? I don't even think mid-boss is fully healed at this point, Jake.
Still a fight needed. A lot of low players. 3-man affliction. Big connection from Do. That'll be go time for Melee Creeps. They look to swarm forward and punish these players. A Baroness onto Do means that he can't do the follow-up work himself. Melee Creeps maybe going to be considering a dive back down to force the mid-boss. Yamato ult finally online. Same for the Geist. This mid-boss is going to die very quick here. Pupils Pupils coming in for the contest. A hook does pull Geist deep out of the pit. Instant swap forced out of him just to stay alive and keep this one going.
Here we go.
Cart
A little bit late.
All the counter spells are good enough. They get the last hits. All 3 Rejuves going the way of the Melee Creeps. And now Pupils Pupils finally a brutal test asked of them. But a lot of low players on the side of Melee Creeps not out of the woods just yet.
Oh, and the cleanup coming the way of Melee Creeps. No Rejuves lost in the process. And we take a look at the soul graph here. Is going to be one of the biggest leads for Melee Creeps this entire game. Low main at death's door, surrounded by enemies on all ends. Maybe going to try and run through. Gets the parry through the doorman door. And the cart maybe buys room. Surely, is this enough for low main to get away? It just might be.
Oh, wait a minute. You're starting to make plays now. There's so many low players here. You got 2 Rejuves left. You're trying to go for kills here. Lasso, does it? It's like it goes wide here. Maybe they get this finish onto Poppers. Surely, at least he'll go down. But the siege is a little scary when you're all this low. I mean, you do maybe have time for the reset and the buy, but damage has been done. It's going to slow the roll for Melee Creeps just a bit.
Let's push Greenwich.
Still, if your Melee Creeps are pretty happy with the result, you still got 2 Rejuves in the bank, and you look at the overall soul difference, getting a big advantage. John, though, in a bit of danger here. Hooked in, no soul exchange.
Trying to do a lot on the map right now. They're very split. I like that nothing being given for free here by Pupils Pupils. The bird, it does get the finish onto the guy, so only 1 Rejuve remaining. Leffa and League just both respawned. An earn dunk for Ido, you'd think that would go in safely, but Pupils Pupils are not giving any respect to this Rejuve. They are battling through these incredibly well, and that's been the hallmark of this entire series.
Now, there are limits. They do just give up earn the Ido, and also in terms of scaling stuff, I still think Pupils Pupils are in a worsening situation. I mean, you have only plus 16 on the GT right now. Oh, from downtown! John goes for the long ride, and another one! Just when John tries to get out, is John going to be able to get away from this at this point? Absolutely not. The Rejuve was already burned, and that is Geist, one of your most farmed characters, down for over 80 seconds. Low main, keeping Pupils Pupils in the game with plays like that.
Oof. Okay, huge kill from low main, but now the question is, what can you get out of it? It feels like you want some kind of an objective, but pushing into a 48k soul pocket wouldn't suggest that for a recreational activity, but a kill onto Saya is exactly what the doctor ordered. Affliction onto 2, but it may just not be good enough. Do has to just disengage from the fight. Ido's still waiting here at the Baroness and playing off the back of the door. Really, you're at no risk here on the side of Pupils Pupils. Beautiful timing on the hook. Ido pops the ulti, but I don't know if he's going to be able to survive, and playing through this door has allowed them to avoid a lot of the follow-up damage. Still, there's a healthy shiv around, some low players on the enemy side who've got to be careful.
The last 2 minutes have been absurd for Lomane. Finally misses a hook, but the disruption, undeniable. Boostio gonna fall towards the end. Ido trying to even the scales here a little bit as 3 members of melee creeps are down. Lefa super low, but guess what? Here comes Average, has the damage with League, takes down Ido. The melee creeps collapse is currently underway right now, Jake. This is unbelievable.
Okay, Lomane is him. He's him times a million, bro. What?
Oh my God.
Okay, honestly got bugged there. Surely. Wait, if Dude might actually go down. He's used Magically. Okay, not going to be a chase here from League. But a solo, I mean, such an efficient map to be played right now for Poppers Pupils. This insane team fight. Lomane gets the opening pick onto John and then turns it around into a massive team fight. I was wondering, would they be able to make something of it? But now they've made more than something. I'd say they've retaken the lead in this game.
Yeah, which is unbelievable for the game state they're in. I mean, chaining one kill into another, but the way it was done, I mean, it was just heinous hook after hook that brought us back here. I mean, that is a Bebop that's going to have chiropractic issues for the rest of his life should they win this game. But Jake, what a game it's been. 35 minutes in, evened up, and Lomane just working with an advantage, and we'll see if he's able to do it again. If you're melee creeps, you got to be all sorts of careful. I mean, you think about your mental state at this point, you're not playing as freely into the game because you don't know if a Lomane hook is around the next corner.
And the doorman door too, right? I think that's like the synergy between these two has been a huge part of the success for Lomane, that Xeno is putting him in these crazy positions that you'd never be able to safely play on Bebop, where you just get run down. But being able to back through the door is massive. Hook comes in, but it's just a little bit too late. Already a lasso connected. Clearly, melee creeps know where their bread is buttered. They're doing everything to try and burn down this Bebop, but a Scourge given to him by his allies maybe brings him out of that fight. There could still be a chase down coming, but at least Lomane lives to fight another day.
Yeah, I mean, if you're melee creeps, you want to isolate the problem and get rid of it, but he's able to get away. The interruption here on the Baroness, on to Do, who stays in the satchel a little bit too long. Nope, has the E-shift, doesn't quite matter, but still has to burn it for no damage.
This pocket is like nigh unkillable. I mean, like, he is truly turbo late game here. 52K. He's got 11,000 souls over the Geist. I mean, he is doubling, almost doubling what Saya's net worth. Like, this is the ultra late game pocket. He has everything he wants. I mean, the cheat death is like, you just ran out of things to buy, honestly.
Look, you might be a little bit estranged with your family, but when you're that rich, you kind of know how to get more money. It's kind of how it goes here for Pocket and what they bring.
I'd rather see the Diviners here. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe he's worried about, like, you know, potential catches that just end the game on him. But I feel like Do really needs to carry this game now. He's kind of the only player who's able to keep up in some of this like ultra late game damage. So the Affliction is crucial. Missing one could break the back of melee creeps, and as the mid boss comes up, a bird comes out from Average. Tense moment here in the match.
Bird on the setup. Once more, Lomane being targeted. However, Do's a little bit exposed right now. I mean, you mentioned Do needs to have a big play. Instead, Do eating a lot of damage here at the beginning. Ido, though, flying strike, diving on deeper. The engage is out. Lefa, though, punishes Saya early into the fight. Down we go. Affliction on 2. League and Lefa looking a little bit low. Melee creeps, though, they need to trade out at least one. They're working down one here so far. They would love to get League. You have Do on the assault. Gets Xeno on the chase down, as League right now is desperately trying to leave the fight.
Second Affliction available here. Lefa and League, their Afflictions expire now, but Lefa's still in trouble, still taking damage. A dive coming in. Ido needs this kill onto Lefa outside the base. Oh, could very well decide the team fight. Oh, but Lefa does slip away. Ido grabs the urn. That's going to be his prize. But actually, maybe just
Boostio got a massive hook.
Prize.
Boostio got hooked from a mile away, took a ton of damage. Is Boostio actually about to die? Another hook just went off on Boostio. He's getting the treatment right now from Lomane off map. You take a look at, but okay, as I said, Boostio turns tables, low HP. Wolf form does some damage.
Pocket's in trouble.
The urn expires in the middle here as right now Do, you talk about being a killable. Right now, sticks the course, drops the frogs, cheat death active, capes out.
Affliction on a 2, slows things down. Do uses absolutely every resource at his disposal in this fight, has very strong connections throughout, but I think it's really the across the board impact from the entirety of Poppers Pupils. They're gonna go for the mid bot. This is wild moves here. I mean, Lash Ult and Furnace Ult extremely confident play to force a mid boss here and take some damage. The Amber Shrine is dropping to creeps though, so maybe caught between a rock and a hard place are these Pupils players. The roar comes out. It looks like a bit of a bait now for the melee creeps. Somebody's still down there hitting the mid boss. It's John. Shrine has to be defended by Infernus, which he's not going to be here to contest. The roar came out just a second too late while Leffa was cleaning his base, and in the end, it'll be a clean rejuve for melee creep, something that they've wanted so many times this game. Finally, they'll get it.
What a game this has been, Jake. I mean, the back and forths here, the heroics out of Doom just a moment ago, the quite literally get away from death's door. But it has less of this. If we can get a look at the soul graph again, because I mean, this game has just been back and forth the entire time. Up, down, but melee creeps probably going to add another 10k to this before it's said and done. 3 clean rejuves, nothing to scoff at, Jake, especially this late into the game, with a comp that theoretically should be scaling better.
I will say, like, I think Pocket is insane in the late game, but I think once you get past a certain point, you almost run out of items to buy. I think it's kind of the nature of all the spirit damage heroes. Like, he buys spiritual overflow on Pocket. Like, you're really forcing it to get more spirit damage to buy that item on Pocket. You know, I can understand it. Maybe it's worth just to have, you know, more gun damage to clear minions and objectives and such. But like cheat death is like a lot of this net worth. You know, it's like you almost wish you could give it to your teammates, right, and spread the love around a little bit, because Ido, Fishcake, and Boostio, the frontliners, they're kind of working with the scraps. They're, you know, some tough questions are going to be asked of them in these coming team fights, but the Double Affliction fight on its own might be enough to just get this one done.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for the fact that your farm post 35k starts getting progressively less effective than your farm up until that point, because you're just trading off items a little bit more often. But okay, deep in the enemy territory here.
Oh, Ido's
trying to down. Yeah, Ido's in some real danger here. Back off and into the. Okay, Do just goes in, drops the affliction, says, "Why don't you stay in the fountain a little bit longer while we, you know, treat your shrines to a good time."
Isn't that a little forced though to like go that early? I mean, League and Pauper's going to be very healthy. They could just come and fight and like not respect the affliction at all. And yeah, this second shrine is emerging as a flashpoint here. Do I think he's lost his cheat death here? Gonna be in trouble. Fishcake hooked in. The damage fall up is immediate. Shiv without the taking his 2 rejuves now off the field. Crucially, onto Pocket and Shiv. Can there be follow-up kills? Concussive combustion out from Leffa. Doesn't seem like it got much of a connection, but a 5-man death slam. Oh my god, they're all caught with only 1 rejuve remaining. Phil, players alive, healthy. Leffa incredibly low. If he could reset on this Infernus, would be massive, but he cannot slip away.
5-man death slam, but not enough to turn the tide. League doing his best in the moment, but melee creeps able to sustain. The shrine finally goes down. It was a tortured fight for it. The patron now exposed. Melee creeps working with a permanent advantage. It comes at the cost of the rejuves, but they're very. It's Do. Do just took a trip to the Baroness.
If he goes down here, he's in. Okay, he does. But for the Majestic leap out, surely, this is like the pocket kills for the game here. If you can kill him, he's going to be dead for 90. It's going to be a brutal. The duration on this satchel is obscene. This hero, he's going to have another cheat death soon. And I think they recognize they can't get the kill. This hero, all right, all right, something's wrong here.
Yeah, we've achieved just permanent I don't want to die mode with this cooldown, with this combination of items and cooldown reduction.
It's like, what does he buy here? Right, he sells the enchanters, right? Yeah. But like, I guess diviners. Okay, spellbreaker. Okay, maybe that makes sense. He needs the debuff resist.
Yeah, he's not dying, or they're not dying in this situation. Like, it is.
Yeah. Do is. I mean, this is an insane pocket game. It's such a high pressure game for him though. Like, if you make one bad mistake, the thing about cheat death is you can get purged by curse. So it isn't. Although I don't see any curses, I really wish Lomane would grab a curse. Okay, no, did he just buy that? Am I crazy? Okay, he did literally just buy it. Literally speak of the devil, baby. Curse is big here.
$15 donation to the prize pool. Cursey, BYD in. Okay, hook in. They're looking for Fishcake. Another hook. Fishcake getting the combos here, but the team back up. It's not their time. Average, they look at the finish, and another hook coming from Lomane. Playing around the door. Hook after hook. Forces out the shout transformation now out of Ido. Ido at half HP, even with the Scourge being active. Gonna go for the friendly flying strike and immediately look to disengage, but Jake, Fishcake's down for 65, mid-boss is up at 40. This one is not over yet.
Absolutely not, man. The threat of the doorman, like everyone playing on the door like that in the late game is so insanely strong. It's so easy to dodge incoming damage, come back in, you know, totally control the engagement on your own terms. It's definitely getting a little bit dicey here for both teams, frankly. I mean, even with Shrines down, like everyone is so farmed at this point. They're able to clear the waves very, very quickly. Wonder if there'd be even something like a Ricochet ever bought for Leffa, if only just to deal with the base. Lasso, ooh, thrown a little bit wide. A little too many targets to choose from in this moment. Curse thrown out, but not for some good value. Damage is coming in. Affliction onto 4 players, but is it enough? I mean, they got kind of boxed out of that fight. It feels also a little desperate for Do to throw the Affliction just to do something.
Do get DB'd off immediately, but you get DB on cooldown, and I think Refresher is still up, but where's Average?
We need to check Pocket. We need to see if Affliction is up. That's the most important thing in the game right now. If he has a Refresher, changes everything. If he doesn't have Refresher, I honestly think they need the Affliction to fight.
I'm like 90% sure that Do has Refresher at the moment.
30 seconds, 30 seconds.
It's close enough.
Yeah, it's close. You may not have the read as Poppers. You may not have the timer Refresher. Osaya? Osaya 1 HP?
Osaya caught!
Oh, the late game picks keep coming. Poppers Pupils, the deathmatch in the ultra late has been fantastic for them. Even with the Hidden King Patron exposed, this game is not over yet. The picks keep coming in to really keep Poppers Pupils competitive into this one, but it's so scary to rip mid boss with 2 crazy waves crashing on your base. Now maybe a consideration to look for this Bebop, but even Ido thinks better that it's going to cancel the flying strike. League though, whoa, Company rocking a hard base. That's a DB just to get himself out of trouble. 5 on 6, risky move for Melee Creeps, but they're trying to force it.
Bustio's going in. Bustio, though, may went a little bit too far in. Thought he had the chase down. Gets hooked by Lomain and punished. Lomain able to get the punish in on the Bustio. Fishcake taking a reprieve here in the Baroness. Melee Creeps down 2 here so far. Poppers, though, dies in the melee, so Melee Creeps do get at least 1 out for trade in what has been a non-stop fight. And okay, Lomain versus the world inside the Veil. Fishcake able to finish it off. The threat of Bebop is gone. And Melee Creeps starting to edge out ahead here. Looking for more is Do on the chase down. He who cannot be killed. Do has been putting on a masterclass here so far.
Really good awareness by Leffa. Knows that him getting afflicted is actually really bad for them. He needs to be healthy on this Infernus. Uh-oh. Shiv gonna be looked at here. Completely ignoring the pocket. Just don't look at the unkillable guy. Good moves from Lash so far. Has the DB. Shouldn't be in too much trouble there. Is gonna take off any of that lingering damage. Pocket has a spirit buff, as if he needed the help.
Yeah, just you know,
73k. Like
they just have all the tools right now.
This is getting ridiculous. He only has 5 3200 items. The rest of his items, like, I mean, at this point, I don't even know if you buy anything anymore. Can you do the golden egg cell spam? Like, what do you do at this point with the souls? I really don't even know.
They kind of nerfed the golden egg cell spam, but you are starting to hit the point of just,
I guess
I'm so rich, what do I do?
For duration? I actually don't know if that's worth.
It's time to make risky investments with souls. I don't know how you do it outside the game, but I mean, at this point, Do has covered all of his needs.
Okay, he buys Indom over Dispel Magic, sure. I feel like selling, I mean, I guess Diviners isn't even useful because you're never dying anyway. So maybe the duration is in fact a better item. I mean, this is truly like the 1 in a million Deadlock game that actually 74k. He's so rich.
The way this game is going, this could be one of our, I don't know if we've gone to an hour in night shift before. I actually don't
one of
think
the richest players we've ever seen on the night shift. I mean, this is great to watch, actually. This is true late game Deadlock. But I got to give credit to Poppers Pupils. The Shrines being against them is really rough here, but they keep managing to make these picks work. Finally, Melee Creeps have just stabilized the game enough to where this is where it's really scary. When the waves are crashing against you, somebody has to clear waves because the Shrines are pushing against you. And then you have to force a fight around mid-boss. Here it comes, Melee Creeps. Gonna rip it in.
He's not there.
Are they gonna go for the commit or just the roar? Just the roar. But they see it. They know that's a fake. And now immediate scout is gonna come in. Infernus, instant ult, instant warps to the high ground. Is he gonna die? He goes down before the concussive can go off. Leffa down. He's been living so well in these fights, but this may be the beginning of the end. A 3-man affliction found by Do. Brutal into the fortunes of Poppers Pupils. A couple of those afflictions are purged off, but with Refresher available, this fight is not done just yet. Poppers Pupils need to somehow contest these rejuves, but their base is gonna be dropped by creeps if they stay out here much longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a do or die situation, and they're looking for Do at the specific and saying, Do, actually, why don't you die? However, Affliction thrown out once more, able to just buy time. Rejuves, though, are down, and right now they're split. Poppers Pupils able to get 1, and Melee Creeps lose one of the crystals immediately. All the crystals are gone Jake, the trade-outs continue. Popper's Pupils still on the losing end of this so far, especially if they lose Low Main and Xeno. 3 down, melee creeps still more alive. It comes at the cost of the rejuves, but it has been fought tooth and nail. But maybe we're starting to see the end here, Jake. Melee creeps, they walk away with a 4-man advantage. First stage patron about to fall.
I don't think the spawns come in time here. Yeah, you're still down for 40. That's just game. It'll be up to 3 members to try and desperately hold on. The Rift is capped by average, which is a little interesting. That I guess, I don't know if he could do anything in the base anyway. Patron spawn time going to be very valuable. Infernus with the Scourge is going to try and tank up. Has Ishift as well. Needs to get this damage resist on the Hidden King. Gets 1 layer of resist. Maybe they can get a second. They're playing with the Doorman door off of the pit, but Xeno super low playing with fire. Cannot afford to leave the pit, and the damage is just overwhelming. The invuln is online, but as Lefa drops, so too will the Hidden King. Melee creeps. A slogfest of a game 2. And I gotta say, ZP, thank God we're not doing a BO5.
Yeah, honestly, I was thinking the same exact thing. I'm like, okay, if all the games are going to be like this, we're going to go this long. A best of 5, man, we'd be ending at 4 p.m. Eastern at this rate. But Jake, no one can complain. We have been treated to a masterclass of Deadlock, one of the most active back and forth games we have seen in Night Shift history, regardless of region. I mean, look, it's a good thing Popper's Pupils put on the boxing gloves, because this was a slugfest, Jake, from beginning to end.
Yeah, incredible match. Love the coordination from Xeno and Lowman to play off the Doorman Bebop combo and claw picks back and like keep that game interesting. But you got to hand it to Do. I mean, he has got like 34 buttons in the late game, and he is pressing them all, man. He is hitting affliction after affliction. Never died, to my knowledge. Like once we kind of reached that point in the late game, I'm pretty sure he just never ever died. And like at some point, eventually, Pocket is just gonna find his way through. But any moment the catch comes against him, he's caught in the wrong position, caught by a curse, right? Like, that could completely change. But it's just incredibly well executed from him to have that kind of a solo carry performance.
Yeah, I mean, look, that game went so long that I desperately get a drink of water, but look, that was unreal, the back and forth. Also, I mean, you talk about stories at lane. Yeah, we talk about Do and what Do was doing, but man, Low Main, there was a period of time there where Low Main just entered into the flow state and was actually Deadlock God. But I mean, you talk about big moments here too. League, so many times, especially in mid pit, making magic happen here on the lash, staying alive, dealing tons of damage. Like, Jake, I am fiending to see what the final damage stats are going to be, because the eye test only goes so far with some
I think
of the
Pocket's
wackiness we
over
saw in this game.
100K. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
I think Pocket's like 120K. Give me your over-under on that. 120K damage for Pocket.
Yeah, I think Pocket over 100 for sure.
Yeah, insane performance from him. And I really got to hand it to all of the melee creeps, you know, even with some of their players kind of falling behind in the economy game, they were able to really do their job, which at a certain point is just like running down afflicted targets for the kills and not giving up too many picks. This hook, this kept Popper's Pupils in the game. I almost single-handedly, like if this doesn't happen, I think this game is over 10 minutes ago, you know what I mean? But this kill onto John's Geist, I mean, you can tell how farmed he is, that they can barely get the kill with those 2 insane hooks. It snowballs them back into the game, but eventually dude just kept hitting spells, and at some point you just can't make your way back. Insane lash ult here. Can't believe this wasn't an even bigger moment in the game, right? With that kind of you thought this would be like almost a team wipe for melee creeps, the 5-man death slam.
Okay, I think part of that though was that a lot of the counter spells got saved for the post death slam there, and the damage that may have been lethal, a lot of it got counter spelled away. Just looking at the replay there from that end, because yeah, I mean, look, we're watching it, losing our minds at the 5-man death slam. It's like, surely this is the flip, but you know what? Counterspell, pretty good item. And I mean, also the item that I think maybe frustrated Low Main the most this game, where so many times it would be hook into, oh, you want the uppercut? How about if I counterspell? And it just, you know, happened over and over again. But Jake, the wait is over. The stats are here, and yep, 6-figure damage for Do in this game. And Xeno nearly doing the same on Doorman, just... man, oh man, just wildly back and forth. And I mean, average probably would have cracked 100K himself if the ramping on Owl was better. That's the one thing about this game, is that it wasn't really a good ramp game for GT, but I mean, with all the twists and turns, with all the hooks, the backs and forths, it was not actually the main story.
Absolutely insane match. You know, you just can't replicate moments like this, so it's just good to bask in it a little bit. And honestly, for these two teams, probably going to need a hot second, little bathroom break, little drink of water. I won't give them any crap for delaying the game after this 48-minute, 44-second barn burner of a game 2. And this is just Melee Creeps, man. They just refuse to die, refuse to go down, even in a game that feels like it's slipping through their fingers. They just grasp on that little bit tighter and send us to a decisive game 3. The draft, though, is going to be very interesting to see now with both teams kind of getting a sense of some of the threat on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, look, this has been a phenomenal series so far. Melee Creeps, they bring it back. And Jake, I'm ready for a break, and I'm ready for map 3. What a day of Deadlock it's been. No challenger match, no problem, because Melee Creeps and Poppers Pupils, they came on to put on a show. What is the conclusion going to be? Well, I want to find out. I hope you want to find out too. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, we are back here on Night Shift 47, and yes, we are human. A small break was required because who wouldn't want to take a small breather after what was a barn burner of a game, Jake? I mean, that was back and forth. We had the sine wave on the soul allocation, and man, both teams had moments I could be really proud of. Melee Creeps take it in the end, but that was wild from beginning to end.
Yeah, that's just one of those games going to go down in the history books. But in the end, it's just a game 2, right? It really just keeps Melee Creeps alive as we zoom out into the bigger picture of the series. We're going to a final map here in the best of 3, an opportunity for redemption from the last game. And I also feel like, you know, even with those 2 shrines down, honestly, I think Melee Creeps close out that game. It's like kind of doing obviously a superhero effort, superhuman effort on the pocket. But I've gotten a little worried for them when, like, you have both shrines down. You would think it would be a little easier to close out the game, especially when your pocket is that far, but they had to absolutely work for it. The playmaking from the Doorman, from the Bebop was, you know, really keeping Poppers Pupils alive.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Low Main's ability to just turn hooks into big moments, I think it actually did limit Melee Creep's ability to be mobile around the map. It was just, at some point you go, I don't know, if I turn this corner, am I going to die to Low Main? And sometimes the answer was yes between the two teams. So, I mean, look, very high kudos to Poppers Pupils to just stay in the game even when they were behind. You gotta give constant kudos here to Do, where frankly, I think if you're looking at this next draft, which is just starting to get underway, I believe, we'll be tuning into in a second, but I wonder here how much from the Poppers Pupils side you go, okay, we don't want to give away pocket, and then from Melee Creeps end, if you want to block Bebop. I think the problem for Melee Creeps is that blocking Bebop is a lot more of a reach than it is for Poppers Pupils to block pocket, which is, you know, more generally a high meta pick anyways. Like, if you block a Bebop, that's a specific, wow, this guy is really good at a hero that otherwise would not be seen until the later end of the draft. Whereas if Poppers Pupils puts a little bit more attention onto pocket, what's a big deal? Pocket's oftentimes first pick, first ban anyways. So I think a little bit of an edge of Poppers Pupils if you're looking at, you know, things to take away, but it might open up the paradox for Boostio should they go that route.
Yeah, I kind of think, you know, the thing about Low Main as a player too is like, yeah, he's doing crazy things on the Bebop, but for me, it's way more about him as an individual than it is about Bebop on the hero. You put him on something else, he's going to be making huge plays. They're going to be, you know, in a different vein. But hey, maybe a hero with more solo carry potential for Low Main, like I wouldn't be mad at that either. So I do think Pocket, after Do hitting that like ultra power spike, is going to be living rent free in everybody's head for quite a hot sec. So maybe that's going to be one hero that no one wants to let through. But maybe Doorman in the same vein. Like those fights when, you know, Poppers Pupils are like 5-manning out of the door and like playing into it, that is so incredibly annoying for Melee Creeps. I think they might be focusing that with the ban in this one.
Yeah, on the other hand, you won against Doorman. You didn't win against Weapon of Mass Destruction Viscous, who was just absolutely throwing out obscene amounts of damage. Like, I don't know. Like, as terrible as it was to deal to Doorman, I feel like dealing with Xeno's Viscous was actually worse. So, you know, maybe we don't throw away the lessons of game 1 where, I mean, Melee Creeps just got slimed. It was like old school Nickelodeon for half of the game, Jake.
Yeah, in a way, they're almost kind of similar heroes for Xeno. It is going to be the Melee Creeps banning away the Viscous. First pick to Melee Creeps. It's an interesting one for Poppers Pupils now because, you know, what are they going to ban away here? Is it the Mirage maybe? Maybe they ban the Doorman away themselves. We've seen Saya use the hero to great effect. It'll be the Pocket, though. They think maybe just the snap first pick Pocket is too threatening. I do think, though, this gives Doorman to Melee Creeps, which I think sets them up pretty well for this draft because now Xeno is kind of blocked out of both of the two heroes he's been super high impact on this series. I mean, we've also seen him look very good on the Holiday previously. That'd be another one I wouldn't mind seeing maybe grabbed here for Pauper's Pupils.
Yeah, but even Holiday, especially with some of the barrel scaling nerfs, is not just doing the AoE slop that you get out of both Viscous and Doorman. So, I mean, still a decent amount of AoE slop with barrels for a part of the game, but yeah, I think
not the ultra late kind of scaling that the Doorman and Viscous bring, to your point. It will be the Mirage, though, which I think is going to be a great pick. I feel like Leffa has looked pretty solid on this, gives him a great laner. I'm worried though, because I have seen this before. I feel like Saya is fantastic in the Doorman. We've seen him lane with like John's Geist, and they kind of like I think this was last week. They like tore the lane apart and they won the game. So Pauper's Pupils, they're gonna snatch the Geist away. I kind of like this. They get the premier carries, I say, of the patch. Mirage able to play more of an enabling, disabling debuffer style, and Geist able to play the heavy hard carry. But that means melee creeps are gonna have their pick of the litter for the pick and initiator heroes.
Well, they're going to go Calico, and I was almost going to say maybe you go Venator, Paradox, because I do think, again, you gotta go back and forth with the silver. I would like to see Boostio on his most comfortable hero, which by all accounts is Paradox, if you can get it. However, there's also a risk here that if you don't grab something like the Venator, maybe Venator gets banned and you're in a tough spot, but instead melee creeps go, nope, it's going to be silver all day, all night, and probably going to be Boostio on the silver for an extra time. Now, the problem for Pauper's Pupils, though, is that you still may want to ban the Paradox because you could put someone like Do on the silver. Do's not going to be on the pocket again. So even though you may go, oh, Boostio's been on silver all day long, you still probably have the voice in your head saying maybe we should ban Paradox because they could put Boostio on the Paradox and then just put Do on the silver.
It almost feels like right now, at least looking at the draft, is a little bit of a role reversal between these teams. Like Pauper's Pupils have picked the more like frontline static heavy draft. They're going to ban the Venator, who is one of the key damage dealers who could have threatened him. I would have thought Infernus is higher prior, but good call out from you, ZP, that they more worried about the Venator pick as well. Maybe that anti-heal uniquely on the Consecrated Grenade is pretty powerful. But it's going to be very scary to like stand and deliver into the Pauper's Pupils lineup. It'll be melee creeps who are going to be in this position of super mobile, super aggressive, and trying to like turn the screws on their opponents. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of who pilots what I would sort of look at this draft as the other team's preferred style.
It's got to be Paradox, right? Yeah. The reason why it had to be Paradox here is that Xeno's hero pool is actually starting to get pretty limited where, okay, yeah, Xeno has probably a way deeper hero pool in general. Even could pull out the Yamato if you go deep enough in the history, but recent heroes, Paradox was it, and it has the dual benefit of it removes the possibility of Boostio Paradox and Do on the silver. So instead, Shiv is going to come out here, probably going to be Do on the Shiv. And the question for me now, Jake, is that what does John play? Because John's been in the Geist Venator camp for a while. I mean, those are the two main heroes we've seen John on. Every now and then, John can play a Lash. Or, in this case, I think we have our answer, Jake. It's going to be the old Warden.
Have we seen Warden played in Night Shift since the last round of nerfs coming in? Because he got a straight nerf to bullet scaling, and I think pretty much no one's been touching him since then. Neither have I. I don't really see him in rank that much either. This is a little bit. I'm really surprised they don't take the Infernus there, right? Like that would have been a much more straightforward meta pick. I don't often see John on the Infernus. I wonder if that's a comfort issue.
Ever. I don't think we've ever seen John in Infernus. If we did, you're talking about something that would be probably a year in the past or more. It is just not something in John's hero pool. John's hero pool is relatively concentrated. It's a lot of Venator, it's a lot of Warden in the past. It's stuff like Geist, and every now and then in a Wraith. But Infernus, I don't think that was ever part of the equation for John. But we're gonna get
the Warden hurts here. I don't think that's the pick you would have wanted, right? If you had, like let's say you weren't worried about player flexibility, Viper will be the finisher for me. Like, okay, this one's getting wild and wacky. As I look at this draft, ZP, it's hard not to see Pauper's Pupils running away with it. They got a ton of super premium picks in this one.
On the other hand, when melee creeps gets Viper, they win. Fishcake, the last few times we've seen Fishcake on Viper, has just actually run away at the game to the point that it makes you wonder why they don't go for the Viper longer. So I feel like
it's a tough Viper game, though, ZP. There's a lot of stuns in this draft, a lot of lockdown for Viper.
Yeah.
I feel like Viper, when you can get away, you can like be slippery and sliding away, and there's the enemy can't quite catch up to you. But like, you got Billy Chain, you got Paradox Shot, Infernus has a stun, Apollo has a stun, Mirage has a stun, or whatever, Tornado disable for a moment, especially when you get that quad Tornado build online. Like, if anything, Pauper's Pupils, maybe they've gone a little greedy with like the tri-core carry. But if they just get away with that, if Apollo and Billy and Paradox can have a decent job in the early game, maybe Infernus played a little bit more of like a dash build style. Like Mirage is a great mid-game fighter now too, especially if you're building towards Tornado. I think this is a very strong draft from Popper's Pupils. I'm a little bit worried about melee creeps even from the laning phase. Like Warden and Viper are really just not played often these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Viper I actually have less worries on than the Warden, because Warden, I mean, good God, man. Like the amount that Warden's gun has gotten hit on gun scaling is unreal. I mean, it's down to like, is it sub 0.20 right now? Because it used to be 0.54. I mean, the Warden gun scaling thing has just been,
Jesus.
Every few patches is like, yep, we're hitting the gun scaling again. We're hitting the gun scaling again. And the gun scaling has been well and like hit into the ground. Yeah, Warden does have hybrid builds that are still like reasonably effective. And you get the comfort pick buff for John, but I agree. As far as this draft goes, I think it's a draft win for Popper's Pupils. The Viper
is this
a wild
going to be
card,
a Spirit Warden, like, or like some kind of an ulti build? Like, I almost feel like you're maybe obliged to at least hybrid, right? There's no, I don't think you can go the completely ignore Spirit build. I'm also not even fully convinced you can do the 4.8k Spirit Spike investment. I think you might need to build into some like bigger Spirit investments and play around the ulti. Maybe you could do some sort of like a Merc Mag style and try and hit the bullet damage that way. But I don't know. I mean, it's kind of open to John what he thinks is the best build. No one else is really playing these characters right now. And so for melee creeps, I feel like they got kind of drafted into a bit of a corner here. Popper's Pupils turning the screws in game 3.
Also, I mean, Sai's having to stretch his hero pool because we haven't. I mean, Sai had a period of time where Sai was playing Doorman a lot,
right?
No,
he was played last week
in the past. I mean, Sai in recent times it's a little bit less. It's not entirely foreign, but I just think in terms of in the back of my head, what teams have done well with what heroes, and overall, I don't think melee creeps has usually been the most comfortable on Doorman. Part is that they had a period where they're swapping up who was playing constantly. You had Ido on Doorman for a long period of time. Then it was Saya. I mean, they would change up quite a bit. But I don't love melee creeps on Doorman. That's just something I have in my head because I think even when it's worked, it hasn't been like, oh man, I'm so glad they picked this hero.
They also don't really have the heroes that we often see picked with Doorman, which are like, I think of like, I mean, not anyone's really playing Mo, but like heroes that almost offer something like Mo, which is they pop out of the door and like jump on you and kill you and run away, and maybe Silver can do that. Is pretty decent, but maybe the Warden can assist, and maybe I'm not giving it enough credit. But there's no like the Bebop we saw last game was so fantastic playing off those doors, grabbing people from a potentially contested location.
Jake, off in EU, we actually saw the Doorman Dynamo. That was pretty effective.
I agree.
I mean,
like,
you saw some ridiculous things happen.
Pop out of the door with a black hole. Like that is scary. I mean, even though Dynamo's not played that much, there's like obvious synergy there. Pop out with the instant lockdown and instant team fight skill. Interesting. It'll be Average locking in the Infernus. I feel like Average has been the player who just always falls on the sword of sort of like ultimate flex of like playing whatever the team needs him to play, which is definitely a challenge. But I feel like he does tend to have good games even when he's off the comfort picks.
Yeah, I mean, Average, I feel like every team has the player of just like, welp, I guess I'll do it. And Average has definitely turned into the guess I'll do it player for Popper's Pupils. I mean, it's a good call. I think Average usually looks the best when Average is able to play heroes that are a little bit more tanky, a little bit more frontline. But also, I mean, Furnace is kind of the hero that you don't really expect Infernus to die a whole lot. So even if it's not like the most comfortable picks for Average, I think he's going to be fine and probably not have that tough of a game. I do think when I look at the melee creeps draft, when it comes back around to the Boostio question, and some people have been looking at the stat screen being like, hey, should Silver be doing more damage? I do think for the draft that melee creeps have, you're actually looking at the Silver that have a higher contribution in this game than any of the other games melee creeps have had. So, I do think you have to take a closer look at the Silver play for melee creeps, because if it's hurting, I don't know if the comp they have is going to be enough to sort of bring it over the top. But either way, Jake, this should be a great one to end the night on. 1-1, going the distance yet again, Jake, where it's been 3 weeks back to back where everything goes to 3 in the finals. It would be another 8-map day if we had an NA Challengers match. Just wild parity in Deadlock as of late.
Yeah, it's been great to watch, honestly. These two teams now back and forth, week in, week out. Both teams grinding, working, hustling, trying to like get that head and shoulders over the competition, but no one has been able to do it, right? They haven't been able to separate themselves, which I think, is a very exciting sign for the future of Deadlock, that two teams, at the top of their game, given their all, can in fact be still neck and neck after a month of grinding away at it.
All right. Well, who's to say NA can't have some pauses, much in the way of EU? At least this one was done at the beginning of the game and not right as the Rejuvenator crystal was dropping on down. But yeah.
We love a good pause in the thick of the action. I mean, you know, with like the heavy melee swinging in, too late to back off, you know, like that's true Deadlock right here. R is going to come out from Xeno. Xeno, I mean, another huge playmaker. We've been talking about him as like, okay, the Doorman, the Viscous, he's doing crazy things on them, but has also looked fantastic on the Paradox and the Holiday. I feel like this is a player who has risen, in my eyes at least, to be one of the really key players on this team, and it's a team of very strong members. I don't think that's an easy slot to hold.
Also, one thing of note here, Jake, is that, okay, it's not entirely bereft of playmaking, but it's not as strong as having a Paradox Holiday Bebop for melee creeps. Like, if melee creeps is to fall a little bit further behind, you're having the hope for, like, Doorman shenanigans with Viper Calico to generate picks. And while it's not impossible, it's not as much of a go-to as other team comps. So as I look at it here, I think this game, it's incredibly important for melee creeps not to find themselves in the hole really for any reason, because I don't think their comp deals with it as well as, say, Popper's Pupils might on actually making a comeback.
Is there another lane swap coming in? Melee creeps, they really like their lane swaps. Guess you can't do too much Guardian damage this early, but a full wave crashing on the tower. Gonna hurt. I think these laners are terrible. I think like Viper is. I think the reason people aren't playing Viper and Warden is that they have become a lot weaker on lane. I guess Warden's probably still a decent laner. He's more of a scaling issue for him, but I'm definitely worried about Viper's ability to have an effective lane here. The Shiv Calico though should be a pretty serious threat, but the lane tempo has gone really wrong in this side lane. I mean, the lane swap kind of does that.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting for Viper, where you look at her arc over time. There was a point where Viper was an absolute lane terror, and that got reined in a bit. Shiv also getting reined in a bit, but Ido down to half HP in the right lane here, where, I mean, Apollo, guys, not an easy run of things here. I mean, Apollo is still terrifying in lane. You know, in general as a hero. Still a hero that's a little bit more early in the mid decoded. And yeah, what in the world is going on in mid right now as it's taken a turn to the side?
Yeah, I think the mid lane is actually going to be a very important lane in this particular match. Lefa and Xeno, the members chosen here by Popper's Pupils to take the challenge against Saya and John. We've been talking about the two of them as one of the scarier laning combos of competitive Deadlock right now. I think the way the mid lane breaks down is going to be very crucial for this match. I think the draft is kind of such that you almost need to win the mid lane for melee creeps. I mean, I don't want to put them on that. Obviously, there's always chances for comebacks in Deadlock, but Mirage is a terrifying laner at this point, especially for somebody like Warden. He's got a big body. You're not really going to avoid giving away these procs and, you know, keeping all the regen up on Mirage. You can't take this trade. Lefa is absolutely fearless there. Doesn't even back to cover when John slides forward.
Also, Jake, in terms of scaling challenges, I feel like the net effect of some of the Warden nerfs and change-ups is that Warden is greedier than he's ever been to be ahead of the game. Like, when you start getting some of those nerfs, you know what the solution is? Get more farm. If you get really rich, it solves all ills. And
dude, what is going on the map?
Yeah, Ido is nearly dead.
I mean, Saya's roaming on Doorman, but they're like losing their Guardian here. They're losing this fight that Doorman ostensibly seemed like he was coming into. Ooh, that parry. It's going to be enough to get the kill on the League, but it's going to be a quick double for Poppers. And another hero that can get to these kind of explosive early game snowballs, the Apollo. I mean, we sometimes forget this character can do very, very serious damage. I mean, he does kind of fall off into the late game, becomes a little bit more of a tank. But, I mean, the mid lane Guardian is in serious question here. John and Saya are both low, and Mirage and Paradox are not going to back down from this pressure.
I mean, it's also bad he loses mid Guardian this far. It's going to set back John's farm.
I wonder if they're going to roam someone in here to defend it. Like, this is looking dire. They can't even contest the creeps, really, on these waves.
It's a real problem, and something that could just throw the game out of reach. John is back in lane finally, but the Guardian is just getting pummeled from all ends. Binding Word gonna force Mirage to take a few steps back. But certainly this mid lane, especially backed up by Doorman. I mean, Doorman Warden is not a weak lane, but it has been taken to task here by the Paradox Mirage lane. Elsewhere, taking a look at Boostio, looking for a dive in here. A little bit of shots here. Average goes for the flame dash. Not enough to save. Fishcake able to finish what Boostio sets up.
It's a big find for the Viper and Silver here on the lane. Lomain back into the action. Going to get some of the solo farm on Billy here. Maybe get towards that ultimate a little bit quicker, but slowing down average on this Infernus is definitely a worthwhile goal. Given that he might not get, you know, as much farm priority, the recovery is going to be a little bit more difficult if he finds himself in that spot. A vitality buff. I was thinking about whether he even needs this, I think, with how much regen he's been having on the lane. But, I mean, it can't hurt to add more, especially when it comes to HP that you could just be more and more aggressive with.
I mean, it's going to make this even more complicated for John inside, but Binding Word going to come out into the double tornado and instant just leaving the Binding Word radius.
This matchup, like, Warden is like unplayable into Mirage. Like, he just escapes every time. It's so hard, and it's so tough to trade against. You know, even with like the ulti late game, I feel like the tornado is going to really suck to be playing into. Oh, a little bit of counter damage going back the other way. Nice connection, though, and hold on. This kill back on Xeno is going to be good, but there's a very healthy Mirage just hunting you down here. Little juke through the veil might be enough to get Dorman in trouble. I mean, even with just the Mirage here alone, like 2v1, easy work for him in the lane right now.
I mean, you listen closely, you can hear the ankles breaking, but it doesn't really bother the Mirage too much. Into the side lane, though, things are getting scrappy. Low main pops a chain gang immediately on getting it, picks up a kill, but Boostio might have him dead the rights here. Look out forward, goes fishing for the parry, doesn't land it. Boostio just needs a few more shots. The curse beckons, and here we go. Can you find the chase down? And no, Rising Ram just going to be enough to get Low main out of danger.
Ooh, could be in trouble. Furnace is back, has a dash. Viper has used the ultimate in the last fight, and this burn is going to be enough. AVG gets a big counter kill, puts average back on the map here on Infernus. Going to throw the concussive in as well. We also have action in the other side lane. This game is really starting to heat up. John has also moved the Warden here over to the side lane, maybe to get some more comfortable farm, but average eventually was able to run down that kill. And after a couple early deaths, he's right back in the driver's seat on Infernus and actually near the top of the soul board.
You know, even though the aggregate looks to be a more even game, off the eye test, it feels like melee creeps are struggling to stay up.
They're down 4K. They're down 4K.
Okay, it was okay. It just like shifted off the Guardians. It was like 2K when I say that, but beyond that, I don't know. This is melee creeps are struggling to keep up, and the bigger thing that's worrying to me is John's farm. You cannot have the start on board
league,
but
that's
okay, as I say that.
But
the farm, he's about to die.
Yeah, he's in serious trouble. And a parry even thrown in. Maybe opportunity for some heavies, but Apollo out of buttons. Not gonna be able to get that kill. John, nightmare fuel here for him. Mirage getting active now on the map. Leffa just untouchable. Health bar refusing to drop below maximum. They're able to pick up a Guardian and slip away from him, which is nice. I don't think anyone on the map can fight this Mirage here. Wherever he goes, it's just a huge problem that melee creeps have to find ways of answering, just to at least mitigate the pressure with Sinner spawning here. Xeno already picks up Saya, and I mean, let's be honest, this is a Pupil Sinner, even though it may be located on the melee creep side of the map.
Yeah, also, I mean, Saya had the Panic Baroness hotel in the middle of that there, so you're gonna have Hotel Guest on cooldown. Things are quickly getting out of hand, and it's not just the aggregate, Jake, that I'm looking at here. Again, it's who's getting the farm, who's struggling.
Viper's in trouble. Viper's in very big trouble.
Fishcake goes fishing for the parry, doesn't get it. 400 HP in the dream, able to get to the zip line elsewhere.
Parry?
Okay.
Wait, big dog on the Calico here, Ido. Styling on him, 3 procs for Mirage, though. Both Viper and Mirage, even with the parry, not enough, and Leffa does slip away.
Let's take out Paradox.
Thing is, Jake, as we were kind of talking about, melee creeps, they don't have the best way of coming back if they're behind. As we chase down on Doom, Doom's going to be kept in check here. Courtesy of League drops in the soul exchange, and oh, Boostio.
He's still pretty low on the silver. Tanking the tower is going to start to hurt here. Nice little movement from League, but stepping away from the tower makes him very vulnerable. Looks like he's out of stam, and that big bite comes in. Keelbane keeps Boostio back and healthy. Poppers continues to elevate this streak, though. He is, what, a 5 streak, 9.2k souls here on this Apollo. Very serious
really
problems from the Apollo. Like, he can, like, at some point, you're just going to basically burst the hero with your full suite of spells, and that's going to be problematic. Melee creeps don't really have natural saves in the comp.
Again, I think the breakdown of mid lane, we have yet to feel the full ramifications of it for melee creeps. The pressure, the heroes that are getting pressured, where we're seeing Do struggling this much early game, doesn't really bode well for Shiv either. Like, ideal start for melee creeps is that John and Do are both ahead.
Saya,
it's not the case. Saya's already in danger in middle. Like, I think just ate a carbine into Apollo poke and might just be dead from this Paradox chase down. And it is. Xeno finishes it.
Yeah, there's more action behind it. Oh, no. The Shiv cannot go down here. Has a pretty nice bag on him. Concussive doesn't connect, but the burn may be enough, and the parry thrown away. Do down. And the lion's share of the spoils from the Sinners goes into the bank account of Average. 2 more kills found elsewhere by Poppers. And, I mean, the full court press here. Massive pressure now. Poppers Pupils up to a 10k soul lead. Double buff available for them. Maybe Average should stop gambling. I think this is the moment to cease gambling. Could be a rundown for Viper, but also, ooh, I don't know. Infernus pretty nasty with the turnaround. The burn down is going to be good. Even with that lethal Venom pronking, Average gets the kill. Locked up in the Baroness, though. Can he make it out without taking the full damage? Clean
Vegas security has gone wild. We'll see if that's enough to take down Average. Elsewhere on the map, Earn being held by Leffa. And also, it looks
helps
like
Average get away.
Is,
great covering fire there from Zeno.
Average able to get away. And yeah, now for now for Mirage. Earn in firm control. Leffa just gonna bring it over. And I mean, Jake, anything that could go wrong for melee creeps has gone wrong in the last 5 minutes. I mean, this has been an unreal swing of the game. And again, melee creeps are not running a comp that's great at coming back from this sort of situation.
Definitely not. Oh, the invis. Zeno steps up. Boostio maybe happy to just escape with his life there. And I am worried because this Mirage build, he's kind of skipped some of the defensive tools that we often see Mirage buy, such as like Suppressor being, I think, a really key one. You can grade this straight to Rico. I don't know if Leffa's like that crazy to do it in Night Shift, but I have seen this before. You go Headhunter into Rico on Mirage, and like, I mean, really, like, he's under such low risk of dying. I kind of think it'd be a sick game to just recognize your advantage and go for the ultra greedy buy of Ricochet. I mean, there's a lot of maybe more plausible, like, you know, spirit damage focused buys he could think about, especially with Tornado maxed. But it's definitely scary when you're really considering these super early greedy builds.
Right now, just looking for a place to travel to or a setup.
Just faking? I think they're just baiting and yeah. Fishcake's really wise to read this play. He's just cleaning up boxes behind the Guardian. I like that they're only having Average show, but now the mid walker's just under contest. Boostio running for the hills. He cannot defend this. Definitely a bad sign. I don't think this walker's gonna go down, but some pretty meaningful damage thrown in. And with the Veil Walker online, I mean, Zeno can really get cheeky with the plays. Split pressure coming in. Multiple walkers starting to get low. Another one, I'm not sure they'll be able to get the finish, but maybe they will. It's just one player hitting the defense. Comeback Rift here. Sure, it's going to be an easy grab for John. But I doubt they'll be able to get a walker from it with Poppers rotating in.
Most likely not. And okay, taking a look at Ido at half HP. This is not a very scary Calico with this level of stat difference between the teams. Boostio, though, tries to make it happen. Boot kick hits nothing but Tornado. Low main finishing off Do as this goes on. And Boostio running for the hills. I mean,
10 million creeps
have gone for us.
There's like maximum comeback creeps. Look at the picture in picture. There's so many of them. I mean, they're not that strong, but hold on. Maybe they can turn this into a walker siege. Poppers now. He's out, though. Into the fight. John would love to just throw his life away for a walker here. Should be able to get it. Is going to go down, but I think the creeps just finished the job here. Although
they're so strong at this point in the game.
Flying away. They're flying away. They went over their head. They didn't realize the creeps are still on.
Win-yin moment at the very end. It's just like, what do you mean? There's like, 2 more?
It's like those old, I think that's like an old bug in like source games where you get out of the map and or it's like an old Call of Duty bug where you like elevator up into the skybox from some crazy spot and then the creeps just juke and take the walker. That's you gotta enjoy the alpha days here.
Jake, if melee creeps aren't gonna make any plays when you get run over, sometimes you gotta seek assistance from other places, and the Winions show how it's done. At the very end, still
I mean, they are called the melee creeps after all. I mean, you know, it is you know, maybe they've strong alliances with the minions here on the Cursed Apple. Sole difference though, world of trouble right now for melee creeps. This is Poppers Pupils' game to throw.
Swap in. Boostio, the target here, again, hit from multiple ends. Is just completely assassinated. I mean, that was a full court press. And if you're melee creeps, I think you want to just leave, but Lomane pulls out the chains and says there is no escape. The pressure, unrelenting, rising ram, and the John puts the cop to sleep. And yeah, he's not really a cop in the lore, but hey, he's still dressed like one. Man,
I didn't even know that. I assumed he was. Average, so nice on the opposite side of the map. where you think melee creeps are going to get some kind of good pressure. Average slips away and the counter kill comes in. Ido dies for daring to attempt it. And I love that Popper's Pupils are just playing for the kills, playing for the fights on the map, continuing to expand the lead. The one downside about having a lead this big, this early, is that the death timers just aren't really long enough for you to take mid boss. It just is a huge risk to even go for it, even with any kind of an ultimate on the other side. But the kills can keep going for those. Earn as well is going to be grabbed this time by Average, who I was expecting him to be a little bit poorer, but somehow, some way, he's come up into the full soul lead here on Infernus. 17K on fire.
Also, I don't think League's too afraid here. We'll see. I mean, the doorman kidnapped, but it'll just walk right back through the door, courtesy of the nerf that happened a while back. And I mean, League still has swap too. This could easily go against melee creeps if
I don't
they
like this for
overdive
melee
here.
creeps.
Yeah, no,
I don't like
you
this.
still have the swap. Okay, swap comes out. Geist
But
goes down.
The punish is coming in. Billy's here. Apollo's here. These are dream heroes to come and chase down all these kills. Sure, you come in and get a Geist, but Popper's Pupils are going to ensure that it's not for free. Although maybe the door actually gets them out of trouble. And in any other day, that would have been 3-4 heroes going down. Instead, it's just the split pressure across the map. Surely Fishcake's in serious trouble, and Xeno is going to run that one down. It's going to be the standard defensive itemization for Left. Dreaming a little bit big to go for the Rico here, but honestly wouldn't mind seeing rushed early. With this kind of a lead, I think I'd love to see them get really greedy with the item choices and ensure that they continue to outscale.
What we need here, we need a golden statue update, number one. And then number two, Jake, we have to put our heads together and think about ways melee creeps can get back into this game, because frankly, with the team comps we have right now, it's just a 20K lead, but with what's probably a significant golden statue buff and is...
Oh, that's massive.
This is tough. Like, this is so incredibly hard for melee creeps to find a way back into this game. Jake, at this point, with the comp that melee creeps have, I feel like you're hoping Popper's Pupils makes a big throw. Like, maybe they go mid-boss when they don't have that big of advantage, or they just overextend. But I feel like the destiny of melee creeps is no longer in their own hands. And maybe it feels early to be saying this is 17 minutes, but I don't think so. I think this game is in a very, very tough spot for melee creeps now.
Yeah, I think they're very aware of just how dire the situation is. At this point, I think you're kind of looking for, like, the Doorman kidnap plays under Walker, or how Doorman can just influence a lot of these fights. I definitely think Popper's Pupils are going to be very cautious about attempting a mid-boss, even with the lead they have. Without Doorman on the field, honestly, I think in this kind of game, you might just rip the mid-boss with, like, maybe some ulti advantage and feel like that's good enough. But with Doorman, I don't think you can take that kind of a risk. It's also very scary to siege walkers into Doorman. So that's the hope for melee creeps, that they can stall out the game. But if they keep bleeding these pickoffs on the side lanes, that's going to become a real issue. As you can see, when they do come to contest this wave, there's like 3 players hovering the wave. Everybody's ready to support John just in case there was a gank waiting for him. Popper's Pupils got to be careful, though. You could go for a side lane gank and kind of wind up in a bigger team fight than you were ready for with Calico waiting for a counter execute.
I mean, I think upsides here for melee creeps, small things to latch onto, is that as far as farm goes, League is actually a little bit behind. You're not dealing with just a super farmed Geist for some of this, because you talk about heroes that really push soul advantage where it feels really bad to play against them when they're behind. Geist has to be top of the list because she just doesn't die. But that also may be changing, because take a look here, Walker push is going to be putting a lot more souls in League's pocket.
Uh-oh, Boostu got chained as well. And it would have been just an advantaged, what would have been a comeback rift changed for a Walker, and now it turns for a Walker and 2 kills, which that's a rough deaths from melee creeps. I really think they made a big mistake even being here. John's trying to turn it around for some counter pressure in the mid, but this is a really risky maneuver. If you go down on Warden here, I think the mid boss is very likely to fall. There's so many of these damn creeps. Mirage with the mass tornadoes is pretty solid at dealing with them, though.
At this point, if you're the ranked contribution in this game, Rift creeps are actually outdoing melee creeps after that one Walker kill a while back. But either way, Lomane is on the hunt here once more. Through the door, perhaps, and no, decisively not. But John's in such a tough spot this game. I mean, the way Warden is right now, I don't think a 22K Warden is threatening at all. I mean, ideal world for John would being up another 5 or 7K here, and instead
door got used. They're pushing this because the door's on cooldown. This is sick, actually, because without the door just used to save John, no Warden ult either, it's going to be risky, though. It comes down to the rejuve last hit. It's already Doorman on pop side, just gets something onto the field before he goes down. A parry is good. Atali Losan, though, preventing some of the melees. 2 rejuves already claimed. Leave is out of the fight for good, but I think Average and Leffa are going to be able to clean house. Low main as well, this time on the Billy. A lot more carry potential for him, and he is showing up. 6 streak for Low main on the Billy. 22k himself, and once again, this is a Pupils Pupils game where everybody is getting farmed. They're not relying on one single hard carry. Anybody can contribute in these big team fights, and that's 3 rejuves and a 5-player, nearly a team kill against the melee creeps.
Jake, you think about how that went down. They seize the opportunity with Door being on cooldown, and then Poppers just lands the Atani Losan of the gods, shuts down any real opportunity to steal away crystals, and now a game that was already getting out of hand, I mean, it is fully flown away. 3 crystals for Poppers Pupils here, a nearly 30k edge on souls, about to be more than that with the world's easiest dunk coming out from Average. Send it through the middle, why not? And again, you look at the melee creeps composition. How do you come back with this comp? I actually don't think you can.
They're going to look for a kill right now, actually. They're trying to get on top of Average. It's a crazy go. Instantly pops the concussive. The slowing X prevents Calico from ulting out of this, and even holding on to the urn still, Average just immediately calls the bluff. 0 respect, 0 fear. The backup is here. And melee creeps lost 1, maybe more to be found, as Low main is also running it down fearlessly into the front line. Is going to pop a Rising Raymond, just back off for the moment, but got a ton of Shiv knives already out of the mix. I think a base guard siege is probably next on the docket here.
Jake, it's running it down in the positive way here, you know, where it's just like, no, it's running it down, but they fall when I do it. Low main, no fear whatsoever. 1000 HP on Billy, maybe way more. Just checking due with 2 other members here at Poppers Pupils. And Jake, everything is set here for a new champion in NA. The base guardian's about to go down, and
kidnap?
Rather than a 40-minute game, this may be way longer, but okay, a quick trip into the fountain. You get the kill onto League. It's probably gonna be 2 kills, one for the crystal and 1 after.
Twice.
Yeah, you would think.
I would think so, right? But maybe if the door can't be closed, I'm not sure if Sai is able to slam that one home. And okay, he is caught. He's gonna pop the ultimate in the pit, and I mean that's kind of like the one real threat in this game. Still is the doorman door. Melee creeps are doing everything they can to like get massive value out of it, but I think Poppers Pupils want to keep the pressure on. I love this call, even without the Geist. They don't really need her. She's not necessarily the most significant character in the fight. Low main wants to keep this pressure up, knows there's players with skills on cooldown. Saya is one of them. He's not going to worry about that, though, because he is dead. Atali Losan, big swap in, followed up by the Apollo. Surely not long for this world either, as the pause comes in with Shiv in a world of hurt.
The low main lag out.
I mean, this is understandable. Come on, Z. We're at a what is this? A 44k soul lead. This game just looks over.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just like a 40k soul lead where it's 200k to 240k. It's a 40k soul lead when it's nearly a 50% soul difference. This is just getting run down in all ways. The draft, questionable for melee creeps from the jump, and the things that could have went well did not. Has not been a great Viper game for Fishcake. John, I mean, the mid lane troubles, we called at the beginning, and they just got worse and worse. It stopped Warden from being a threat. Both shrines now down, and if you're Poppers Pupils, you go for the championship here and now, Jake. I think they could just go to end it.
I mean, they're up 50k here, ZB. League's going to come down with full resources. They're going to get the patron drop. They could probably make a strong case for backing out and buying here. I think that's almost indisputably the correct play. I'm sure they're all sitting on at least 6,000 souls. If not more, they will get an exit kill onto low main. Suspect that'll be the end of it. I mean, with this many creeps headed to the patron, it's so risky to chase. I think this is a crazy chase. Very, very desperate for melee creeps. They're trying to get Leffa, who's still sitting here with some tornadoes. May get run down, but there's a lot of players. You're deep in enemy territory now. The execute's not quite enough for the finish. The lethal poison also, no one can get the finish. Okay, eventually, Leffa does go down, concussive. Isn't going to hit hard enough. Average has found one lot of low players on the other side, and Poppers Pupils getting some crazy trades. A 5th train streak for Poppers. It's been lights out this game on Apollo. I'm almost certainly deathless with the scoreline in this one. And I mean,
if nothing else,
you might force it here. Maybe this is too crazy, but if Do goes down, I think it likely is game.
And the chase down is still happening for Do. Poppers in hot pursuit. Do just getting picked apart bit by bit. I don't think Do is going to be able to get back to base. We'll see. chase down in its final moment, and the hyperline gonna finish it off. Zeno
to the base.
finds it in the end. And yeah, okay, off the doorman door, it takes down Average. And I mean, that's been the high point right now. Saya has turned into your typical doorman pub where it's like, wait, at all levels of skill, the kidnap doorman is your last resort. And I mean, truthfully, Jake, without the kidnap kills on the Average just now and League a little bit before, the game actually would be over. So, I mean, knock it however you want, but doorman kidnap, the only lifeline for melee creeps in a game where they have just been run over in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, these doorman kidnaps are nice. They keep things extended. There is going to be a momentary power play for melee creeps. I wonder if the scenario is desperate enough for them to force a team fight in the next 30 seconds. I honestly wouldn't hate it. I think this game is very close to loss. Vortex Web is queued up here. Understandable side, knows where his bread is buttered, plays for this last chance, is going to be able to deny the gun buff, which is going to be a nice little find. I mean, League would have loved to have that for a potential base siege. So Saya's still out here, still making plays, still fighting for the win. Melee creeps refuse to give up. Leffa picks up a Toxic. The map just continuing to be farmed up here. Popper's Pupils, I mean, the comeback souls are massive right now, I'll say, for melee creeps. So every jungle camp they're able to farm is worth its weight in gold.
Jake, one upside here, taking a look at John has secretly been amassing farm. Like, it's actually a 37k Warden, which is more farm than most of the people in the game. I still think you need more.
He's the most farmed in the game,
on overall.
Despite how absurdly, but I will say that only underscores how completely broken useless all of his teammates are. Like I'm sure he's pretty strong, but like everyone else, you're down 40k and your Warden's the most farmed in the game. Like, this is the one-man army right here as Bustio getting ganked in the mid, tries to get a proc, his ult off, cannot get it. Isolated into a corner, no chance. And the entire team is here. They're trying to run down from the doorman. Door, of course, is a huge threat. They're even thinking about trying to get tricky. Vortex Web, though, is thrown out and missed. Saya doesn't have the door. Decision time for Popper's People. It seems like the call is going to be to go back and play the map. Mid-boss spawning soon, and Bustio will not be up, at least for the start of that contest.
I mean, I think with one down and this big of a lead, you slam mid-boss. Yes, some weird things can happen with Saya, but
without Infernus ult, it is a little risky. I think they were gonna bait and look for the team fight.
Baiting is a safer play, but okay.
Oh no,
they actually have homework. They have homework. The melee creeps have teamed up with the Rift creeps, but they lose Saya. So
that's huge. He's been the one player who's kept them alive in this game. And without the doorman, I mean, do you contest the mid boss? Maybe you have to. Finally, the Rico now up for Leffa. The AoE in this pit is going to be brutal. Without the doorman door, you got to get this done the honest way, straight up into the fight, down 33,000 souls. Night is darkest before the dawn, ZP, but it is looking mighty dark here.
Honestly, I think the sun may have just left and it's eternal darkness at this point for melee creeps. We'll see. They make the boss scream and now they look for the cleanup and instantly just take down Fish Cake. No Bola threat left. And with Bola off the table, no doorman doors to worry about. The mid-boss is going to go down, and this will be a game-ending mid-boss should all three rejuves go the way of Popper's Pupils. Even if they lose one, Jake, the stat difference is just ballooned. Ido looking for the miracle against the world, the drop down, but it's both Ido and Bustio go down. 3 rejuve crystals, Popper's Pupils, and Jake, a new champion is about to be born.
Popper's Pupils is a formality now, running it down the mid lane, massive soul advantage. 4 players down. It's only John and Saya. They're going to go for a desperate play early. Try to get a kidnap, but I don't think they get anybody into the base. And as that one fails, I like that Leffa is securing a second wave of creeps here to ensure that they can keep that backdoor protection off. Saya's going to do his best to just delay the inevitable. John's so farm, but Average just goes right up the gut. Concussive combustion into the 2 remaining members. The unstop from the Warden ulti delays the inevitable, but that's just about all you can hope for with this kind of a deficit. Zeno calls the GGs. Massive performance from Popper's Pupils. Zeno, low main, huge plays out of the playmakers in particular. Poppers in this game 3 was incredible on the Apollo. Pretty sure he was deathless in there.
Popper's Pupils, new champion here in NA on Shift 47. Game 2, probably the highlight of the night. Game 3, it was the exclamation point, Jake, as what a game it was. Nothing close about this one. It was, the belt was brought out basically from minute 1 and was never put away.
Absolute beatdown, man, in game 3. Like, this was a shellacking. Honestly, I think they just got drafted into a corner, which honestly crazy to say because I feel like melee creeps for a long time have been maybe the best drafting team in North America. I feel like they have often won games off of their drafts, right? And it's rare that I felt like, oh, they really got outplayed. But even in game 1 and game 3, I would argue that the better drafts were found by Pauper's Pupils. So whether they're able to make better use of their flexibility playing into deeper pools, or they just have a better read on the meta game, I feel like you really got to give credit to their team play. That's been the place that, Melee Creeps have been able to find the edge in the past, but not so today. And so the championship changes hands here in Night Shift.
Well, I mean, I'm going to keep it simple. You had John on Warden when, for the most part, no team has really deemed Warden good. And the Warden was picked under duress. It was picked under a very tactical mid-stage ban of Venator by Pauper's Pupils and the early prioritization.
Look at these creeps. Look at these creeps. What's going on? Look at the ones on the wall. Excuse me? They juked. The creeps juked. And they legitimately, the Walker wouldn't die if they did that.
Jake, that was the best play Melee Creeps had all game long, and it was done by AI. Like, let's just be honest here. I mean, but still done by Creeps. The Rift Creeps,
it's
Melee
tragic,
Creeps connection.
Man. No one's safe from AI in 2026. The clankers took the Walker, man. No one's safe.
But yeah, I mean, this highlight is just watch Melee Creeps get run over. And I mean, if you go into the DNA of why this happened, I think you have to put a lot on the mid lane and how that went down, where John and Saya were struggling, Jake, within that lane. And when you're running Warden here, I think the one way Warden could work is if you win mid lane pretty hard and then John just gets enormously large. And to John's credit, John did get a lot of farm this game. Yeah, but not relative to the overall game. Like, he got large in the sense that he was a little bit ahead of most of Pauper's Pupils, but not 10K ahead, which is, I think, actually where you had to be to make the Warden work this game.
Yeah, he was quite far, but it was like at what cost, right? The rest of the team was just like falling by the wayside. They couldn't stay alive. They couldn't even really get into the fight. I stand by this being an abysmal Viper game. I'm not gonna there's way too much control to play Viper in this game. I honestly, this is just like brutal. I mean, across the board, I don't even think you can take too much away from the stats. I mean, Boostio 10K damage roll.
That's what I was gonna bring up, Jake. Like, we can't gloss over this.
That is rough.
It's all right, I'll say
that's
bring up.
That's tough. Like that is a big L.
Like production, I hate to say it, but one last focus for the world because this cannot happen.
Red circle. I mean, this is over 10K. At least he's in the 5 digits. It could have been worse. It could have been 4 digits.
Okay, but
I've rarely seen in all my time playing Deadlock.
What a terrible cope that you're just throwing out there. It's like at least he hit 5 figures. Like, oh god, like no, this is not. You cannot have this happen on silver.
Visually, it's not as brutal. But yeah, I mean, right. This is an abysmal game for them. They have to go so tanky. And John just can't really deal the damage this game. I mean, even he's like, it was respectable on the Warden, but considering the amount of farm he had, he just wasn't able to deliver in the same way. And it was just kind of the game where the only thing Melee Creeps had going for them were Doorman shenanigans. I also got to give credit to Pauper's Pupils. That forcing mid boss because Door is on cooldown, very sick play. Like very, very sick play. Usually maybe it's like the big ult you're worried about, but in this game, I think that was a fantastic read that Door is in fact the most significant skill you're up against, maybe a lot more so than any of the ultimates from the Melee Creeps roster.
Yeah, and I mean, overall, from laning phase out, everyone on Pauper's Pupils just came out to play. I mean, even the players from Melee Creeps, where you don't see John Saya lose lane all that often, and maybe you could put some of the blame here on the or not John, but the pick of Warden that John had to play, but that's still in general a duo that tends to win against everyone, and it just didn't happen this time. And across the board, I mean, Pauper's Pupils slapped every lane. They made no mistakes in the mid game. They made the incredible read on mid boss. Again, when you have a KD that's this tilted, when you have a lead that was so significant, realistically speaking, Melee Creeps lost every facet of this game from the draft to the lane phase to the mid game. Nothing went right for them. This was just a shellacking for the ages to end our NA finals.
Yeah, this one's going to sting. Definitely it's going to be something Melee Creeps going to want to come back next week and earn some vengeance for. I mean, it's a team that you don't expect them to be out of the championship match for long at all. But for this Pauper's Pupils squad, a great start for them, a great win, a feather in their cap, and both game 1 and game 3's pretty dominant statement victories. And that game 2, I mean, they showed incredible fight back deep after losing shrines. Like usually, it's not long until the game comes to an inevitable conclusion, but they kept that one more competitive than I think Melee Creeps were comfortable with. And you kind of, maybe you could feel some of that fatigue manifesting a little bit in game 3, which is a rare thing to say about Melee Creeps.
Okay, so we are processing over 6 minutes of highlights for our MVP. We'll give chat a few moments to discuss who it's going to be. But Jake, I think you look at the totality of the series. There's one person in particular for Popper's Pupils where we just got to give them their flowers.
I have to agree. This one, it just had to be Lo Mein. I mean, you know, from all 3 games, big performances. Game 2, honestly, that's maybe the most impressive one of the heroic picks on Bebop that like keep them in a game that they should have no business competing in. And then game 3, he gets to play like a character with a little bit more of that individual carry potential and just shows up so huge on the Billy with some very big carry performances. I mean, this highlight reel is going to tell the story better than words, right? Just these key hooks, like this kind of a follow-up hook, right? You know, that's just all skill. He's not able to get the uppercut follow-up pass to just get it done with another clean connection. And I mean, just the decision-making, the reads, the timing, immaculate from Lo Mein. I truly think mechanically one of the best players in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot argue with that statement after what we saw here from Bebop, where, I mean, it's also good to see because Bebop goes through these phases where we don't see Bebop for a long period of time, but it is truly like, as many hook characters are in anything with MOBA mechanics, the character, even when the character may be seen as a little bit on the weak side, just land every hook like this, and the character is stronger than anything. I mean, Lo Mein put on a masterclass on the Bebop games, even in defeat on map 2. You want to talk about why map 2 went so long? Yeah, just giving John the business like this, a big reason for it.
I mean, that's one of the sickest back-to-back hook combos you're going to see. I mean, the deep hook on the Walker Siege, John is just never expecting that one. And then he has to hit a high-skill follow-up hook. If he doesn't hit the second one, I think John also probably gets away. Here on the Billy, able to just really get a romp in game 3, you know, with a serious soul lead, able to kind of frontline in, brawl, deal a lot of the damage. Can't believe he got that heavy off. I mean, at that point, you're just, by the grace of God, taking these kills.
Also, in terms of shout-outs, we don't give a ton of shouts to the coaches all that often, but look, that game 3 draft, you got to give it up for pure content. I think that was a very, very good draft. Got Popper's Pupils everything they wanted, put Melee Creeps in the terrible spot of having to put John on Warden. And they even had like the combo pick where Melee Creeps is trying to just really put Xeno in a bad spot. But what do? They get Xeno on Paradox, which is still good, and removes the ability to potentially put Boostial on that hero and then get Do onto the Silvers. So I think the draft was a masterclass from pure content at the very end. And yeah, I mean, everything came together for Popper's Pupils to make this work and to take the championship back.
Yeah, I agree. The 7th man, I think in particular in game 3, really made himself known. I also got to give a lot of respect to this team that has evolved now over week in, week out, keeps on grinding and like adding so many heroes to the pool. It feels like they never really find themselves in a spot where they're forced to draft for quote unquote comfort. Which Melee Creeps did a couple times this series that kind of was turned against them. Let's take a look at the bigger history between these two teams and kind of put this match in its place here across the long haul here in the night shift. And you can see Melee Creeps had an insane run from like week 12 for months and months, winning everything, went on a ridiculous tear. But ever since this roster started to emerge with some of these players coming together, playing as Floorman in the past, as FPS Lounge, now Popper's Pupils, they've always just been on the cusp, grinding, forcing Melee Creeps to continue to improve. But it has started to feel as of late that maybe there's maybe they've surpassed them, right? Taking the title this week, after some very, very competitive series in the last. Although as we say that, in the end, it's still a 2-1 with a different draft, some different situations. Maybe I'm overstating it to count Melee Creeps out as still a very serious contender in the next week.
I mean, the last 3 weeks of Deadlock have been absurd. I just want to focus in directly. I don't think we have a big circle here, but if you look at 45, 46, 47, 1-2, 2-1, 1-2. And then can we shift to the EU history just to prove this point where we've just been going the limit week after week, 1-2, 1-2, 2-1. I mean, Jake, you cannot ask for better than maximum Deadlock week in and week out. And yeah, okay, technically we're down 1 map this week because NA exploded, whatever. The finals where it counts, things have been unbelievably close recently, and it's just made these games a joy to watch.
Yeah, I think the competitive scene has kind of started to mature in both regions. You know, there's been a long time in competitive Deadlock where there's been like one definitive team at the top of each region, and anybody else winning is a crazy upset. But right now, both regions, I think, have two teams that are on the same level in that, top slot. Of course, Buffingers versus Abrahams in Europe, and Poppers, Pupils, Melee Creeps in North America. It's just too close to call between these two teams, and I feel like it gives us a little glimpse into maybe the future of the game as more teams, develop, building that lever, the layers of strategy and skill necessary to compete. But I'm yapping too much. Let's get into some of the things that people really want to see. Let's take a look at some of the prio of this week. I know a lot of the fans want to see the top meta picks. Some of them are going to stick out like sore thumbs, but quite a healthy week, man, looking at the graph. Like very open-ended in terms of what looks playable.
Far healthier than last week. Last week was probably one of the more biased weeks we've had. This week, I think part balance changes, part people just trying out new things in the meta, but we got significantly more variety. I mean, we got 3 games of Bebop in there. Shiv, for the first time in what feels like forever, was not at the very top spot. And yeah, some mainstays were still in the top spot. Mirage, Pocket, Doorman, Infernus, Billy. I didn't really expect those to change too much, but more Apollo comes in this week. And also, Venator, not necessarily in every game. The incoming revival of Yamato, the revival of Silver. I mean, this was a far better week balance-wise than last week. And I mean, it goes to show that even if people looked at the last patch, it's like, oh yeah, this seems a little bit minor. Not really. I mean, this definitely shook up what was viable at the highest level of play.
ZP, I don't want to alarm you. Am I crazy? Are we entering an era in which Shiv may be balanced? Is that possible? Could it be done?
I refuse to believe this, because every time Shiv has had a week like this, you give it a little bit of time, and then people are like, no, Shiv's actually the GOAT, and Shiv is back to being picked. He is such a comfort pick of those on the top player that I actually think it's a balanced conundrum where it's kind of like, even if he's objectively weak, people are so good at the Shiv mechanics, and the way his playstyle is, if you just you have good HP, you're alive, you do Killing Blow, you take over a game. I don't know if Shiv can be truly dead. I hope to one day have a month or two where Shiv isn't played, but I'm not holding my breath, Jake. I've just seen his revival too many times.
Yeah, right. Feels like he's always going to rear his ugly, terrible head with those, repeated executes. But overall, man, an incredible week of Deadlock. A lot of great heroes coming in. Love to see Dynamo getting played. Personal favorite hero to see come in competitive play when teams are able to make him work. Would love to see, I was thinking this, ZP, is my crazy? I miss Kelvin. Is that a hot take? I miss Kelvin, Kelvin was so OP for so long. I kind of dreaded to see him. The dome was so broken, but I'm ready to see Kelvin back in some games. Maybe we need some Kelvin love in the patch.
We got some deep lore here. The Night Shift Production Discord, in honor of Kelvin being the most OP hero when competitive Deadlock started. The logo image is Kelvin, yeah. Because we just was well, we're seeing this hero every game. That's going to be our image. We have never changed it, by the way.
You remember the Kelvin dome? You could just last hit all the rejuves in the dome, and they could do.
It was one rejuve. It was one rejuve. If you just walk in, is yep, I guess we got the rejuve. It applies to everyone. And also my ice beam, it's going to disarm you, by the way, while ricocheting to everyone, and lasting a million years with crazy scaling, where also Gun Kelvin was a thing at the same time. I mean, it's what overpowered ability do you want on Kelvin? Yes,
maybe there's some parts of Kelvin that shouldn't come back. I wonder if we have the item prio this week. I feel like that's always a fun one to kind of see what's risen up. Okay, we don't have it this week. Okay. Well, I'm always curious to see. Maybe we'll be able to tap back into that later. But I believe, ZP, that's bringing us to the end of the show. Is there anything else for us to cover?
Yeah, one thing I meant to tease it a little bit earlier in the show, but podcast-wise, we are changing things up. It may go through a name change too for the Graveyard Shift, where we are going to be doing a weekly podcast with Lightbringer in a more standard podcast format, and the goal is to do it every Thursday starting next week, where it's going to be going over not only competitive Deadlock, the entire scene, not just Night Shift, trends in the scene, and of course going over new content when it drops. Likely to see me and Lightbringer there every week. Jake, I know you're going to be on there a lot of the time, and also guests from around the community, including some you may not expect. Just a celebration of Deadlock, but also giving you more content on stuff you want to see. So look out for it next week, not tomorrow, but it's something that we're really excited about.
Yeah, and let us know in the comments on YouTube. Send us a message on our Discord. Anything you want to see discussed in the podcast, we want that to be community-oriented, community-centric, and like ZB said, bigger than just our event. Although, as far as where you can find it, all on our channel. So subscribe to our YouTube. We'll be live here on Twitch as well when we record the show. So that's going to be an exciting one. I'm glad you mentioned that, ZP. It's going to be cool to bring Lightbringer in. Always a great voice to have here in terms of the goings-on in the Deadlock scene.
Well, that does wrap things up for the day. Thank you again, everyone, for being tuned in. Our patrons, our viewers, anyone that just loves Deadlock. It was an amazing day with twists and turns. The Sunday finals gonna go down in history, at least for game 2. But for us here on the night shift, 47 is concluded. It's time to clock out. We'll see you next time.